911 location of your emergency.
Breaking news out of North Idaho. Moscow police are investigating a homicide on King Road.
Is she breathing?
No.
So 5'10", all black. Could you see what color his eyebrows were or anything like that?
No, I don't remember what his eyes look like either.
Officers discovered the bodies of Ethan Chapin, Xana Kernodle, Maddie Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves, but no weapon been located at this time.
Arrested. That's 28-year-old Bryan Christopher Kohberger in custody today.
Mr. Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false.
We do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122, but we can put his phone in that area. There are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants.
Everything is alleged. Hi guys, I rearranged a little. I gotta take all this stuff down and get flowers on that side, but I wanted a solid background for a while. And this way I don't have to always fix my bed because the foot of my bed is always in the damn video. So this way, if I don't want to fix my bed, I don't have to fix my bed. So this works out fine. This works out totally fine. So this interview I told you guys about, I don't know, maybe it's been probably a week, maybe a little less than a week, but it's been a few days since I told you guys about this particular interview that was done by the Goncalveses. I hadn't listened to it at the time. I have heard pieces of it since. I will tell you that I don't know what Steve thought he was doing when he makes what he, I guess, thinks is an excuse for why they did not go down to Moscow that day. I mean, when you know the truth about the family dynamics from reports that we read and other situations, what he says is not shocking. What's shocking is the mentality the man has to think that it made anything better, because no, sir, you just made everything a hell of a lot worse for yourself. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, though, because I don't know what the hell you're doing. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He sure do. He sure do. He sure do. Oh, my God. Thank you for the 5 gifted memberships, 1985. Thank you so much. Congratulations to those who got those. I saw you posted something. You always say jewels and gemstones, and I really kind of like that. I don't ever want to be one of those channels that names like their subscribers and stuff, but every time you say that, like, I'm just like, I like that. It's really cute. I like that. That's really cute. There was a couple I saw in passing that I wanted to just talk about. Okay, so I believe this is Lana's channel that has this, right? This was mentioned to me day before last, I think. And it's on my mental list, but I'm glad that you mentioned it, because as I'm looking over at my board, I did not write it down. I actually forgot a couple of things and had to fill it in this morning. But where's my Post-its? Let me put this in my face. No, because that's important. We were really, the cat chick, the cat girl, she's somebody that I was really wondering about. So when you guys were telling me about that the other day, that did, like, I want to go in and see that. Because it's like the consensus is like everyone is hearing it the same way, that they are trying to get this girl to admit that it's her. And she's like, no, it's not me. That's not me at all. So, no, that's really crazy. The 424 car. Yeah. You know, they have these interactive Post-it note things, but they're like digital. And I guess you plug it in to like a USB power thing, but they're kind of like this. And you know, like the doodle pads like the kids used to have to like play with? Well, I'm sure they still have them, but My kids are just out of those ages. But it's like that for like Post-its, and like it has like a calendar thing on it. Like it's a little like Post-it thing. I don't know how to describe it, but I want the damn thing. Okay. I'm just trying to remind myself. I'm just trying to remind myself. I saw another comment right here. You're like the fourth person that told me that Cece Suarez said that she met Kristi. This is the thing. Cece Suarez is going to do whatever Cece Suarez wants to do. She's really good at that, which is fine. I don't have any issues with Cece Suarez. My thing is that Cece Suarez has gone back and forth with Gray Hughes, which, girl, more power to you, because he sucks at everything. But Gray Hughes was being fed information by the Goncalveses. That's number one. So this statement's odd because I don't know how she wouldn't know that. So if she's going to start talking to them too, how's that going to work with their relationship with Gray Hughes? That's an open, very well public feud between Cece Suarez and Gray Hughes. Number two, right around CrimeCon time, and I think I took a screenshot of this. I'll look and see if I still have it and post it if I do. But Cece Suarez posted a picture of herself and dumb shit Chris Hansen, saying that she was going to be trying to work with him on something. And there was not a single person in her entire comment thread in that community post that was not warning her to stay away from him. So much so the post was deleted. Chris Hansen sits on the board for Kristi's DNA Foundation. So that's like, I don't know what's happening. But to say that she says she's going to deep dive Idaho 4, for those of you that are fans of Cece Suarez, because I've seen a few videos in passing, but I'm not a fan of anyone. But for people that are a fan of Cece Suarez, if she's going to deep dive the Idaho 4 case, then this is going to tell you who she really is. Because if you're coming from these channels that read documents and go over forensic reports and listen to hearings and don't go off of the mainstream, then y'all can easily tell when someone is not deep diving and they're just getting skim notes, or they're getting some AI stuff, or they're not really digging. I don't feel like that's who she is. I feel like anything of hers that I've watched, she's dug into everything real hardcore. I don't expect that from her, but I also don't trust people. And considering the fact that she is now buddying up with Kristi and the Chris Hansen situation, she has a big platform that can put out a narrative. Let's be serious. And I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just putting out an opinion on something. She has a very big platform that can put out a narrative, not the truth. Okay. So we will see. If she deep dives the case and she does it right, then you'll know. If she deep dives the case and it's noticeable, well, then you know how to behave. I mean, you know what to do. You don't watch her anymore. You know that she's just like James Patterson and everybody else that you thought was credible, and they're not. I don't think that's going to be the situation. I really don't feel like that about Cece Suarez. But this is a good time to see what happens. So we'll see what happens, because now there's noticeable connections to things that you have to question out in these YouTube streets, you know? You just always got to be so careful. You just don't even know. Yes, and the Yessie interview. The Yessie interview. I can't wait to listen to that one. Again, I like to give the original videos like their own organic reach so it can get out there before I get out there, because it will, like, sometimes it overtakes it, and that's not ever what I ever want to do with it. So I always give them a few days, which is why sometimes whenever we listen to interviews, like, you guys might have heard it like days before we get to it, because I don't jump on it the second it's posted like some other channels do. That takes away the organic traffic from the original poster. That's not fair, in my opinion. That's, if you've been here before, that's how I've always moved. Unless you're crime talk, unless you're a dumb shit, then I'm just going to come out real quick and be like, no, sir, that's not going to happen. No, we're not doing this. Nip it in the bud real quick. But for these kinds of things, we just don't do that. We let the organic traffic get out there. So I think tomorrow-ish, we'll probably go over Yessies. Maybe in the evening, we'll probably go over Yessies. Chris Hansen just really pissed me off, because when he did the interview with Kristi Goncalves, where she lied to him about the 11/12 footage, that one, he says that people that care about looking at crime scene photos are basically pedophiles. And that if you're wanting to look at crime scene photos and you're out here talking about cases like this, you're basically somebody that's involved in the 764 group and you're a disgusting human. That's it. He says that in the end. It's his own words. It's not me paraphrasing. That's what he says. While he is paid to be in crime. What a weirdo. What an absolute freaking weirdo. I don't even understand. I don't even understand. Yeah, which doesn't surprise me at all. So if she wants to actually dig into truth, then let's see how far she goes. Will she know about Sam? Will she know about all of the bullshit? Will she know about all of the lies? Will she care with these little connections that she has now? I guess we'll see. Because now this is where you get to see her character. Now this is where you get to see who she really is. Thank you for the 499, Kim. I completely agree that BK is not guilty, but with all the lies and misinformation, how will they ever prove it? A completely unbiased third party would have to come in and do a complete forensic audit of the evidence, and then things would have to go based off of that report is the only thing that I can think of. That's the only thing that I can think of. Yeah, and in court too. And that's another thing. They have like a weird they get mad that there's no sexual assault, and I don't understand that. That's really creepy to me. They constantly want to act like there's this like extra component to this situation that can't be proven, just like the majority of everything else here. And it just gets really strange. It gets really, really strange when they behave that way. It really does. It really, really does. But yeah, that's the only thing that I can really think of. And they can do a forensic audit. They bring a completely third party in, but can you trust that third party? I mean, it would have to be somebody, they'd have to be finally actually, transparent and truthful with who they contact, who's coming in. It can't be somebody contracted. It can't be anybody with connections. It would have to be literally a completely unbiased third party forensic audit. That's what it will need. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what a lot of people have realized about a lot of people that they thought were really credible about stuff. And if you're going to say that you're deep diving, then deep dive. But there's plenty of stuff that we talk about here where I'm like, this is not a deep dive. This is me just going based off of hearing some crazy shit and needing to talk about it. Okay, this is not a deep dive. You got to make it clear. But at this point, you can't just hear something about this case. You have to do more. You have to do more. So we'll see. And yeah, within a few minutes, you'll be able to tell if she's honest or if there's a reason why her new little connections are connecting the way they're connecting, That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Okay. Let me pull this interview up. Now, I have never heard of these people before. I don't know why they're going around to these like small little channels like this. This video has been up for, I think, like 2 weeks now. The video version of this interview, last time I looked, which was like yesterday, had like 1,100 views on it. The podcast version of this interview, as of this morning when I looked, only had like 96 views. I don't know who this man is. And I'm not saying that to be degrading, okay? I'm saying that because they're trying to come out here and push their foundation. They're trying to come out here and be like, we're doing this great thing. We want to keep Kaylee's name alive. This is what we're doing. We want to talk about our story. But why are they going to these little channels that don't have reach? Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I feel like that's obviously strategic. It's either strategic or because of the way that they've already, lied about so many things. I wonder if it's because the bigger channels don't want to deal with it because they don't want to deal with the backlash. I don't know. But these, like, the last two that I've seen them do are so freaking small channels. They don't have a lot of reach. And I just find it strange. And again, it's nothing against the whatever, even though I say he's clueless in the thumbnail, because this idiot says that he didn't know that Maddie and Kaylee had known each other for past college. That's the very first thing that got put in everybody's faces. What do you mean you didn't know they'd been friends since before that? That's okay. So that's when I was just like, y'all are just finding literal strangers. And that's really convenient because it's literally called like Strangers Conversation or some shit. He didn't even know the relationship between Kaylee and Maddie. I'm sorry. The frick. Yeah, Stranger Conversation podcast. It has 60. I didn't even look at this, guys. 63 subscribers. Now, if they have a podcast somewhere else, I don't know. But considering the amount of views that it has here on this channel, there's just no freaking way that they're bigger anywhere else. That's kind of weird. But here, let me pop this up real quick and I'll show you guys like what the channel itself looks like. Very odd. I don't know if they're bigger anywhere else. I really don't. It's just strange to me that this is what they're choosing to do. Because how are you getting reach for your foundation when you go to places that look like this? 63 subscribers with 139 videos. Oh my God. I didn't even look at the subscriber count when I was talking about it. Let's see the links. See, maybe they're bigger like on these other places, but I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out like, what is the point with this? If you're trying to get reach, like I need to be able to see that this person actually gets, I mean, I don't know. Okay. So I have their podcast page. They have a website, realtayjones.com/podcast. I can't even see like where they're like their view count. So Apple Podcast has it right. See, and on Apple Podcast, you can't even see the amount of times that it's been played. They have a 5-star review with 14 ratings, but that's not a lot. I'm just trying to, and look, I'm really just trying to figure out like, what is your whole game plan with this, Steve and Kristi? If you're wanting to get reach, why are you not going to places with reach? See, now here it is on Spotify. They have one rating. And see, on Spotify, you can't see how many times it was played either, I guess. Because it doesn't show it. I'm very confused. Just like, what is your strategy here? I don't understand. I don't understand is all that I'm saying. But look, 2 weeks ago, it's been sitting here for 2 weeks. It has 1,200 views. And the podcast version only has 94. Like, how are you getting anything for your foundation when you're going to places that don't have people? It's very freaking odd. Okay. I don't know. Whatever. We're going to go ahead and start listening to this. Now, just listen to what he says. They do start talking about a little bit of like how, like where they met and all that other kind of stuff and when they moved. And I'll let that stuff play because it's an interesting family dynamic. I'll admit that. I don't have anything negative to say about it. It's just interesting. But they get into it pretty quickly, maybe about like 10 minutes in or so. And it's just excuses. It's stuff that like, I can't believe the excuse he makes or what the hell he thought it was going to do. But it really just, I mean, okay, you guys will hear it. You'll get it.
Hello and welcome. Today, my guest.
And this music that's playing is not from me. This guy has this music playing in here. I don't know if it plays the whole way or not. I don't remember. I just remember hearing it in the very beginning, but it's from his video.
Are Steve and Kristi Goncalves, the parents of Kaylee Goncalves, who are part of a group of young University of Idaho students, commonly known as the Idaho Four, who tragically lost their lives to a senseless act of violence in 2022.
And then he's
the incident not only rocked the U.S., but shocked the world.
Crazy,
in the face of unimaginable loss, Steve and Kristi have chosen to turn their grief into purpose. Working with the Murder Has a Name organization, they are committed to honoring Kaylee's life by supporting victims, standing with families, and ensuring those seeking justice have the resources to pursue answers.
It might
so, Steve and
skip like that
Kristi,
because of the
welcome
way
to the
that it was
Stranger
recording.
Conversations podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you. And, you know, first off, I just want to say, you know, I am very sorry for your loss. You know, I want to thank you both for having the courage to come on the show and talk about this. You know, no doubt it's going to be a heavy conversation, but I can't imagine it's a topic that ever gets easier to talk about. But you guys have kind of moved forward from this tragedy and have really started to do some great things. And that's some of what I want to get into and kind of what's been next in your guys' life.
Great.
Yeah. So, you know, I just want to start a little bit light, if we can. You know, I mean, I understand you guys are living in Idaho now, but you're not originally from there. I mean, what took you guys to Idaho? I love Idaho. So
Yeah. Well, we were down in the Bay Area-ish, Napa, and he's from the Northwest. So he grew up up here, and he was down there for college and whatnot. And we met, and he was always like,
Sorry, I had to help Slade find his phone. He couldn't find it, but we're good now.
I'm not staying in California forever. You know, I want to move back to the Northwest. And I was like, well, I'm a California girl. I'm staying here forever. Well, he got online and he was doing some research on some areas and whatnot. And ironically, I was pregnant with Kaylee at this time. Okay. And he found Idaho. Well, you know, it popped up at a spot that sounds like it would be conducive to the things that he was wanting out of an area. So we originally flew into Boise and visited that area, and we actually drove, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And I'm like, you are not bringing me here. This is not it. Go back to the drawing board. So he went back to the drawing board. He goes, okay, what about, you know, a little further north? But then I was like, that's too far from California. So he was like, come on, we got to try it. So we flew to Spokane.
And I'm pretty sure Steve is from, I think it's called Stevenson, Washington. True Crime Design did a video about, I think it was True Crime Design, did a video about some of the heritage or whatever, the background of the family here. I think it's Stevenson, Washington. So he's Steve Jr. technically. And then, right? Like, isn't he Steve Jr.? And then Steve is actually like the other Steve Jr., Steve the third or some shit like that. Maybe that's wrong. But Steve is from Stevenson, Washington. Then we have Steve Jr. And then we have the two Olivias, just spelt differently. And then Olivia married into Stevenson's last name. And Stevenson is where Steve is from, according to like that True Crime Design video. And it was just really weird to see like all the little connections. And then to know that they always say shit like, this isn't a movie, this isn't Hollywood, blah, 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 blah. But then you see like the signs and the connections and the weird shit. And you really just have to question, like, how much of the Truman Show are we really into? Which episode, which season is this? It's a lot. It's a super lot.
Kaylee had been born. Kaylee was just a baby at the time. And we flew into Spokane, drove over to Coeur d'Alene, and I'm like, let's put the house for sale. Done deal. Let's go. And we were moving out of California a few days after Kaylee's first birthday. And we had bought a house up here. And he wound up having to stay down in California for about a year. He stayed down there, worked his job. We moved him into an apartment. And I moved up here with our three kids, Kaylee, Olivia, and Steven. And then we finally got him up about a year later.
See, like, I don't have anything negative to say. I just feel like that's an interesting dynamic. That when they bought the house, Steve stayed behind in California for an entire year in an apartment while Kristi went to this new strange place that she's never been before with the three kids to like set up the house and do stuff there. I would not do that. If I had a husband, I wouldn't have done that. I mean, I picked up my kids and moved by myself anyway. But if I had a partner, that'd be kind of difficult. I understand maybe sometimes it has to happen, but that would suck. You know, that would suck. That's a year living apart. I'm living where you want us to live, but you're not here for a year. That sucks.
as he got a job up here, but he knew he had to make big money up here, and it was hard at that time. So he couldn't just take any job. So he had to stay back for a while down in California.
Yeah, absolutely. So you were pregnant with Kaylee when you moved there, and it sounded like you had 2 kids already?
We had 2 kids already. Yeah. I was pregnant when we checked it out, when we first checked out.
And Olivia's husband is in the movie industry, like in shows and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Southern Idaho. And I said, no way. And then, but we came up when Kaylee it was just a few days after her first birthday. We had a U-Haul and we were moving him into an apartment, and me and the kids were moving up here. So we did it. We made it. Wasn't easy.
Yeah, moving website called findyoursp.com. Could search for different criteria. Like, I didn't care about a zoo. I didn't care about a museum. I was looking sports. I didn't care if I had a stadium. But ironically, one of the things was low crime, really good schools, and some infrastructures and stuff like that. And 3 places were in Idaho, which was the most. Boise was one, Sandpoint, and Coeur d'Alene. So, and there's an airport, so I could telecommute. I could fly in, still work my IT jobs in San Francisco Bay Area, and then come up here and buy them and get us established. And I expected to work like that for as long as it took.
Well, yeah. So when we came up to Coeur d'Alene and we saw that, I said, all right, let's go sell the house. The house was on the market for 1 day and sold in the very first day. And we're like, oh my gosh, the house is sold. So we immediately bought, we have a different home up here, and we immediately, came up, bought that house. So we would have a house to move into.
Yeah. So they have 2 houses. I guess I didn't know that because I don't really care about that kind of shit, but I didn't realize until this interview that they have 2 houses. And what she's going to say, this interview was actually recorded before the 4th of July, because she's going to say how Olivia and Steve Jr. are just about to get married, like on the 4th of July, which again, like, why would you get married on Independence Day? I just feel like that's kind of selfish, but you know what? Whatever. They're living in the old house. So I guess the house that they were in when everything happened, Steve Jr. and Olivia are now living in, and they live in a different house.
Because we weren't expecting it. It literally sold the very first day it was on the market, and it was an over, for what we asked for. And we're like, what are we waiting for? Sign the paper.
Yeah. So the house that Kaylee grew up in, we still own, and her siblings are renting it now. So
her brother and
so we go there and visit it. It's kind of a reminder of a lot of the photos that people see are in that house.
Yeah. Her high school days were here at this house. When we moved out here, she was, 8th grade, 9th grade when we moved out here. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there's 2. So they've always had 2 houses. See, I just don't really care about like all of that kind of stuff. So I guess it just kind of threw me off. I thought they only had the 1.
It's got to be tough, but it sounds like it would also be something that would be hard to let go. Keep it in the family, some memories attached to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we like our son there, and and he really loves those memories and cherishes those memories, and enjoys being there in that home.
Yeah, he's contracting and like fixing it up and doing all the stuff, which is nice, So he's probably spent $1,000 on tools to fix the place.
Oh wow! Thank you for the 10 gifted memberships, Colin, and 10 from Sarah. Oh my gosh! Hey girl, how you doing? Congratulations to the new members. Don't forget, this Monday is our members only live where we do our little giveaways. So don't forget, we got more members. That's 25 new members. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Up, which I really appreciate.
I like when you're nice
you don't
to
get that
each
from
other.
a normal renter.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very cute.
Yeah, so you guys have a pretty big family, 5 kids total.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
See?
Yeah, and so.
No, Mr. Stranger Man. There's actually 6 if you want to count the one that Steve has without Kristi that they threw away like trash. But go ahead.
Kaylee was the 3rd born, and then you have 2.
They can't even give her even a little. Like, this is just the narrative that they just will continue forever and ever and ever and ever. And it's just so sad. They know they can't go back on it now. They can't come out now and now tell the whole world, well, we've actually been lying to you every single time we've talked to Nancy Grace or Ashley Banfeld or Brian Inton, and we said we only had 5 kids. That's actually been a lie. There's actually 6, blah, 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 blah. They don't want to have to admit any of that because everyone knows how Steve would look. Everyone knows how Steve looks for those of us who know the situation about Sam. So let's just see how far some people deep dive. That's all I'm saying.
Younger ones, are they quite a bit younger, or are they right around? Are they all around the same age?
Kaylee was born in 2001, and then Autumn was born up here in Idaho, and she's 2005, so 4 years. And then we had Aubrey, who's 2006. So Autumn and Aubrey are basically like twins. Stephen and Kaylee are basically like twins, but there's 4 years in between Kaylee and Autumn. So we moved up here. We kind of got settled in. We said, let's have one more baby. And we had Autumn, but there's a 4-year difference between Kaylee and babies. Yes, we were going to have one more, but we wound up having 2.
Yeah. I mean, Idaho is beautiful. We actually love it up there. We almost moved to the Coeur d'Alene area ourselves at one point. My wife grew up in Spokane for the most part, so we have some family in Coeur d'Alene, and we go to Post Falls quite a bit. Mm-hmm. My wife's best friend lives in Spokane still, so she was just up there. I mean, it's a great place, you know.
It is.
You get the beauty of the Pacific Northwest, but you're not necessarily in like Washington, Oregon. It's kind of its own separate world.
Yeah, they get more rain than us, and the weather here is.
That's crazy. The Julzery box. That is so cool. That's funny. I like that. That's funny.
I feel like it's better.
It's still a very small town feel. Although I don't know how much longer we're going to have that because it seems like they're throwing up subdivisions every time we go down the road. We're like, that's new. So I don't know how much longer it's going to be that way. But during the 24 years that we've been here, 23, 24 years, it's a very small time feel. But you have everything you need. Everything is right here. You have your Costco's, you have your Walmarts, you have your clothing stores that you need and whatnot. So, and if you can't, if you're not, then you just get on Amazon and buy it.
Yeah. It's a great place to raise kids.
It is.
Yeah. Amazon and like online and having an airport really can be conducive for communities like this. We've just thrived, and we've ever since like COVID and all that, we've just like doubled. I work at the hospital, so they kind of keep a census of the community and how.
No, he just said, I work at the hospital, blah, blah, blah. Keep that little part in mind. Keep that little part in mind, okay?
Fast we're growing.
I mean, we know
everything
that, but
we paid money for to figure out where our population is, it's always exceeded it. So we are growing very fast. And, you see that like locals here are moving to Montana because that's a little bit farther out. So
they're kind of outcharging us, like, for rent, like our younger generations that, starting a rental and whatnot, they can't afford it, like
that's everywhere.
And even property taxes and stuff. So I mean,
Kerrville is horrible. Kerrville is so bad for that. Oh my God. Kerrville has gotten so disgusting. I have to read about it all the time. My dad tells me about it all the time. They're building just like all of these freaking apartments all outside of San Antonio, all outside of New Braunfels, all outside of like the small towns, all along the highway. And then they get into Kerrville and they're building like all these apartment complexes. And like literally 1 bedroom, 1 bath apartments are like $1,700. And the way that Kerrville marketed these like massive amounts of apartment buildings popping up was that they were for the working class. They were for the working man. They were for the family. No, $1,700 for a 1 bedroom, 1 bath. And that's like the low cheap side of all of these apartments and all of the rent basically in Kerrville in general. And if you know anything about Kerrville besides the flooding, what the hell are you trying to get $1,700 for something so disgustingly tiny? It's like that everywhere. It's gotten screwed up everywhere. It's not just Idaho. It's not just Coeur d'Alene. It's not just Rathdrum or wherever they're at. It's the entire country. It's gotten way out of hand. It's gotten so bad. When Ariel and Slade were like 2 and 3, you could get an efficiency apartment with all bills paid right outside of Dallas in like the Louisville area for like $575 a month. And it had everything in it. And they were not in a bad part of town. They were in a nice part of town. And it wasn't a bad area. And it was gated. Like, what happened? Like, what happened? It is so bad. It is so freaking bad. Oh my God.
Slow down here. You know,
it's so bad. Everywhere
these taxes are getting out of control. So It was great. It was super cheap. You know, we came up here and bought a beautiful home for $125,000. That's absolutely unheard of now. Absolutely unheard of.
Yeah.
So that is the.
You can't really say that. So, and my house is not like brand new by any means. It was built when there's still real wood being used. You know, she said you can't find anything for less than $135,000. That's not true. Mine was like just at $135,000. And it has a yard. It has 3 bedrooms. It has 2 bathrooms. It has a 2-car, garage, whatever, separate, longer driveway. But I'm in a small area that's not. No one gives a shit. It's not going to be any big rush to try to clear this land anytime soon. You know what I mean? Like, you can find cheaper places that are still, decent for a decent price. You just can't be in a city. You have to give up some other luxuries. I miss our restaurants. I miss my damn shopping. When I tell you I was smack dab in between 3 of the biggest freaking Krogers I've ever seen, a big ass super HEB and 2 Walmart supercenters as an extreme couponer, you couldn't want anything better. And I had an Albertsons, for those who know, okay? I loved where we were. Before our safety, I had to put us here. And I gave away delis with glass where I can go and pick out the meat at the big stores and all of the nice luxuries. You have to move outside of the city if you want to find something affordable. You don't have a choice. You have to literally go out into the middle of nowhere. It's possible, but it can kind of, it's different for sure, but not impossible.
Sad thing. So it is sad, So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, a great place to raise kids. It sounds like your guys' family is pretty tight. All the kids were tight. And did you guys have any grandkids? Anything?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we have grandkids. Our oldest daughter.
So they literally found the one person on the planet that doesn't know anything about this case. He didn't know about Maddie and Kaylee being friends before, and he had no idea about the grandkids. They literally found a stranger, guys. It's not even a joke. They literally found a stranger. That's crazy.
Has blessed us with 4, and one of our younger daughters, Autumn, she has 1, and our son is about to get married on the 4th of July, and they are ready to start right away. So we're looking forward to some more.
Yeah, well, you guys are very busy. Very busy.
Yes, it's been busy, yes.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about Kaylee. I mean, who was she as a person?
So Kaylee, was very independent. Always had been, from early on.
Now, I will say, I don't really like the way that they put this. I really don't. Kaylee in that household was the middle child. We already know what the big stigma is when it comes to being the middle child, and it's not a stigma for no reason. It's not. I am aware of that stigma. I do everything I possibly can to make sure that Slade never feels like the middle kid. He gets to pick shit all the time. We do stuff just what he wants to do all the time. I make sure he doesn't ever feel like the middle child. But the stories that they tell about Kaylee are completely different. The stories they tell about Kaylee sounds like she was literally the epitome of the middle child, constantly having to remind them not to leave her behind. Stories of her constantly having to hustle to get a pair of shoes that she wanted for school. We have reports from people that knew her in college and knew some of the dynamic and knew that she was having to pay all of her stuff on her own and deal with everything. And if you're going to sit here and try to act like you're big bad Mr. Two House with all this money, how come your kid was having to do all of these things? And yeah, it's cool for independence, but you come out here and say that she's independent. Is it because she was truly independent, or was it because she had to be independent? Because those are 2 different things. And what I'm hearing is that she didn't have a choice. Especially when you consider it was a grandparent that lent her the additional $1,000 to put down on her Range Rover, and neither one of her parents. So was she independent, or did she have to be independent? I gave you my opinion, so you can make up yours.
You know, she was like in the middle. She wasn't quite as old as the older, not quite as the young as the youngers. So she kind of had to, you know, find her spot. So that was tended to be with the olders, you know,
Exactly.
Stephen and Olivia. So, you know, that's where
Exactly.
she wanted to be.
She actually partnered up with.
Now, my kid, like when I say that I try to make sure the Slade never feels like he's the middle child, that doesn't mean that I like don't make him do stuff. Because I'm thinking like, am I sounding like I just let him get away with everything? I don't let him get away with everything. He's self-sufficient to the point where like he can cook certain things and he's learning new things and blah, 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 all those things. But it's definitely completely different than what we're hearing here. Slade gets paid when he doesn't even do chores all the way correctly, honestly. I probably am a little bit too soft on him. I will admit that. I probably am too soft on him because he's had a hard life. And I probably am too soft on him. But I don't try to like ever make him feel like he's completely on his own for anything. That's why at 16, he was able to buy every single part for a computer from allowance. I mean, he was mowing the yard a lot back then. And Christmas and birthday stuff. And he's the one who sat down and figured out how to put that computer together. I sat down in the living room with him, put on little YouTube videos with him. Everything we do together. Did we ever hear really a lot of any independent things with them? I don't really think so. I feel like it's a lot of group stuff. And there's a lot of people that claim that Kaylee and Kristi were not very close. Now, we do know, though, that Kristi was going with her to go shopping for a car. That was said by the guy at the car place. So it's not like she was completely estranged from them. No, I don't think anyone means completely estranged when people say Kaylee wasn't talking to them. That's not technically at all accurate at all. We know that. But you can still be in contact with people and keep a distance because of the way that they treat you. Some people just choose to go no contact, which is fine too. Trust me, it's perfectly fine. But you can still tell someone that you're excited about your car and you still not feel close to that person because of your relationship. You can still go on a walk whenever you're going to visit people. And it doesn't mean that you're very, you know, close and things are hunky-dory. It just means that you're being civil to each other and it's fine for the moment. So what these little stories that they tell, it does bother me because we don't see it. We don't see any of the things that they tell us, which isn't technically their fault because we didn't even know that these people existed until after a tragedy. But as much as they share their family, you know, online, I don't know. I never really noticed anything special for Kaylee specifically until like her college people were doing it for her, if that makes any sense. So there is one thing to be self-sufficient, and then there's one thing to again have to survive. And you know, you are supposed to teach your kids to be, you know, sufficient, but it shouldn't be on the, you know, birth order, you know. So we have one that's completely independent, and then one that they, you know, and I know that's a situation that a lot of people find themselves in. I got lucky not to have to be in that situation. Honestly, my parents got lucky too because I was an adult when I got pregnant with Ariel. You can't say that for them because I think that Autumn, or whichever one the youngest one is that has a kid, was like 15. And she came out and tried to say that people were wrong and trying to blame her parents for it because they were in the room right next to her when it happened, is literally what she came out and said, which was just a real strange ass thing to say. Because now you're telling me that at 15, your parents were totally okay with you having a boy in your room with the door shut because they just didn't give a shit and they were just off doing whatever they wanted to do. That's not a good look either. So all the stories that they tell, they don't put out a good vibe. They don't. And I don't know why they tell them unless they just don't see it. Some people can be pretty blind to their own shit. I mean, I'm probably pretty blind to some of my own shit too. I mean, we all are. But I don't know anymore if it's strategic or if it's just this is who they are. Like, I don't know if it's done on purpose to like come out here and like try to put some sort of impression out there, even at this point, because now they're telling stories that we've never heard before. Or if this is just who they are. And they really don't see how bad it sounds. Because it sounds bad. It sounds bad. And that's really the whole reason why we watch these interviews. And they haven't really said a lot of anything yet, but trust me when I tell you, they're gonna. And when he says what he says about the reason why they really didn't leave to go to Moscow, you're going to understand why we were listening to this interview. I mean, some of you might have already heard it. Out of the 1,200 views it has, some of you might have actually already heard it anymore. The stories they tell aren't a good look. And it doesn't make the talk of the estranged relationship, it doesn't make that go away. If anything, it like fuels it more. I don't know. I just don't know if they notice that. I don't know. It's not like we're making shit up. We're listening to what they say, and we are comparing it to what Kaylee's friends are saying that she told them herself about her relationship with her parents. And I think I'm going to trust those friends over the two people that keep calling Jack Ducour her boyfriend, even though they had been broken up for months. She called him a child to her, basically, and she was trying to get back with a guy that she had been talking to literally 12 hours before she passed away. I think I'm going to listen to the people that actually respect what Kaylee has to say, what she wanted with her life and how she felt, over the people who constantly remind us that they don't care. So there's that too. I'm gonna trust the source I feel doesn't have an agenda, and that's definitely not the two people on the screen.
It's Steven.
Yeah.
And Steven had his best friend, his cousin. So there was two older boys that she wanted to roll with, and anything a boy could do, she thought she could do. So they were riding bikes and throwing the football and doing crazy stuff that boys do. And she just,
she was like,
right there with them.
I want to ride that dirt bike. I could race you. I'll beat you. I'll run fast. She would run so fast, she'd run out of her little shoes, just to beat her brother or her cousin.
I think she was faster than the boys.
Or their friends. And we had friends that had some property, and they had this little tiny Yamaha motorcycle. And all the boys were like, Kaylee was like, I want to get on it. I want to get on it. But unfortunately, she did
she crashed the whiskey throttle.
She did the whiskey throttle, getting on, and drug herself all the way up the hill. And they're screaming, "Let it go, Kaylee, let it go!" So she got some pretty bad road.
Yeah, exactly. V-slams. She is their child. So you'd think that Kristi would take up more for Kaylee than she does Kaylee's ex-boyfriend, but that's not what we see now, do we? We are here for what the victims actually were, based off of facts that we get from people who don't have an agenda, based off of what we're hearing from people who don't have a reputation to keep. So just try to remember that when you come over here trying to make comments about anything. We respect the fact that Jack Ducour was no longer in Kaylee's life as a love interest. We respect the fact that she was moving on. We respect the fact that she was moving out and moving on with her life to Texas and growing up and being her own independent person far, far away. We don't sit here and pretend like the love story actually existed anymore the way that these people do in their weird, sick fantasies. Okay? So try to remember that. Try to remember that.
Crash.
But that made her a tough girl.
Yeah, but they all carried her in. All the boys, Kaylee crashed. This little tiny motorcycle.
Loved it.
Pants all torn up, and drug her up the road. She forgot to let go. But I'm sure she would wakeboard and snowboard. We had a boat and went out and wakeboard. And she's just the little tiny thing at the time. And same with snowboarding. She was the young.
Ariel's like over 2 hours away, and as soon as we have the ability, we go over there. I don't understand it either.
Longest that Steve ever got up to the mountain and snowboarded with.
Especially when, I think in one of the last interviews we listened to, they literally make a statement about how the University of Idaho was so great because it wasn't that far away. But yet you never went to go visit her at King Road, and you didn't go down there the day that you were getting called by family that she was dead.
She was always, she was very much that, what is it? The FOMO, fear of missing out. She had that since the day she was born, literally. So she was always like, I think her first words were, "What about me?" And she would pound her little chest and say, "What about me? What about me?" And we're like, "You're going. We're just, we're getting their jackets on. Hang on, go get your jacket. We're, what about me? What about me? And she was very ornery. She was very ornery.
See, that's like the second time that she's told that story. The whole "what about me? What about me?" thing. That instantly tells you that if her first full sentence that you ever heard her say was, "What about me? What about me?" Doesn't that tell you that that poor child constantly felt like she was being left behind? So her first sentence had to be something that was going to get you to see her. I mean, you don't have to be a psych major to see the issues here. You really don't.
For whatever reason, if you had electronics in your house, such as back in the day, phones, your cordless phones, or she loved remote controls too.
And this kind of behavior is because she wanted attention.
Wherever we went, she loved to throw them in the toilet. So, when we'd go over to family's house,
she loved to throw everything in the toilet because she knew that's the only way that you were going to give her attention. These stories you're telling are not helping. These stories you're telling are not helping. They're not cutesy. If this is a constant and you're making it sound like it was all the time and it didn't matter where you were, you went to someone else's house and she's doing it there too, that's because she wanted attention. She knew instantly at a young age, the only way she was going to get it is by throwing something in a toilet, getting in trouble. It doesn't take a genius to understand what's happening.
They'd be like, Kristi, Kaylee did it again. And those phones back then, they were like $100 a phone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she do, and we'd be like, why do you do this? And she thought it was funny. She thought it was hilarious. Or she would, get the batteries. She would, anything with batteries, she would learn how to get the batteries out and she would hide them and we'd be in there like, what, and then we'd be like, where are the batteries? We'd be like, Kaylee.
So you guys know the, let me make sure I have their names right. Okay, the Orrin and Orson West case, the two little boys that went missing and they've never found their bodies, but like the two people that had them, they've been charged and stuff at this point. One of the first ways that they described the two little boys was rambunctious. And people red flagged that so quick, okay? They used that word to describe Kaylee in the last interview that we went over. Go back and watch it. On the unscripted whatever that they describe her as rambunctious, as ornery. No, it's because she needed attention. She wasn't getting what she needed. The keywords are all there. If this was any other case, if this was a missing person and there was some sort of like family dynamic that we knew of like this, and this wasn't this case, and we were hearing these people talk like this, people would be red flagging them all day long. Circumstances don't matter. The truth is still the truth.
Jade, and then as she got older, she was just, she was very determined in school. I can't say that school was always easy for her, but she always had her grades were always perfect, but she worked hard for grades. They didn't come easy. Like, Stephen and Olivia, they just skimmed right through school. They didn't have to even, they just went buzz, right through. And Kaylee was just like, oh heck no, you're not going to be the only ones that get A's. I'm going to get those, but
want to get better grades than
she had to she was in an advanced class in like 4th grade, and the teacher during a conference, she said, I'm not quite sure Kaylee's quite ready for this. We put her here, but I think she's really struggling. She's doing great, but it is tough. I think that we might move her back this semester to the regular class. And I was like, please, let's talk about this. I'm like, what you will do to this child. Like, if you move her from that advanced class, she will have a meltdown. And she's like, I thought about that. And I actually thought the same thing. So
see, this is just odd. And I don't know what she's trying to do with this story, but she's basically saying that Kaylee was in an advanced class she was struggling in, and that they wanted to move her out so that she wasn't struggling so much anymore. But now Kristi's saying they were scared to move Kaylee out of the advanced class because she would throw a fit, like have a whole meltdown, throw a fit. Why are you telling this story? Why didn't you just end it at, she always had to have better grades than everyone else. She always tried to strive to get straight A's. Why are you telling this story? This is a negative story. This is not the stories that you come out and say about your dead kid.
Like if you move her from that advanced class, she will have a meltdown. And she's like, I thought about that. And I actually thought the same thing. So we'll just leave her. I said, it's okay. If she struggles, but she's still pulling, she's still doing good. She'll catch up. And we always talked about that, cause I'm close with all the teachers and in the district and whatnot. And we still, we'll talk about that. Like that was, when I said that to you, you literally were like, you can't, please don't do that. She will literally melt down. So, she always wanted to be the best. Middle school.
See, why can't you just say that? Why can't you just say, yes, she always strived to get straight A's. She was always in competition with her older siblings to get the best grade. She always had to make sure she was number one. She always tried to be the best. Why'd you have to slip in the shade? Why'd you have to slip the shade in there? I just don't understand. Some people literally are born and their mother is their first enemy. I mean, that's just how it is. She can't tell a single story without making Kaylee look bad in some way, shape, or form. I don't understand it.
She met Maddie, and Maddie was just everything. From then on out, it was
welcome,
Kaylee
Morgan.
And Maddie. It was
welcome. Thank you for joining. Welcome.
Was always, whether they were over there. We met Karen and Scott. Karen and Scott met us. It was every night, every single night. School nights, it didn't matter. It wasn't just weekends. It was school nights. It was vacations.
That's exactly what they just did. She doesn't see. That's what I mean. Like every time she's told a story, when she's saying that, oh, Kaylee came and told me this, blah, 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 blah. She always also like includes in the story how she just brushed it off. How she just brushed it off like it was nothing. And in however way she did it for that certain subject. This is just how she was with Kaylee. None of this is okay. And we're going to get attacked. I'm going to get attacked because I'm out here speaking the truth, because people think that saying something about them is saying something about Kaylee because people are ignorant, don't know how to freaking see the difference. No, I'm pissed that they're out here as the face for Kaylee while she's doing nothing but talking shit about her constantly, and has since the damn first time we ever heard this woman's voice on November 20th. First thing was her calling her a brat for not wanting to be with Jack. Admitting they weren't together. Now, all these years later, oh, that's her boyfriend. No, he ain't. And no, he wasn't. This is so disrespectful to Kaylee. And if you don't see that, if you're over here to just watch because you're a weirdo who hates me, but your notifications are on and you're here first before everybody else, how dumb do you have to be to still be catering to this? Yeah, they lost a child. She didn't like her child. She might have loved Kaylee because that was her daughter. This woman did not like her daughter. I promise you, you go and listen to the way that Karen Laramie talks about Maddie. That's a woman who not only loved, but liked and adored her daughter. You don't hear that coming from Kristi. You don't hear... You do not hear a woman that liked her child when Kristi talks about her. She always finds a way to throw shade on her and to jab at her in some way, shape, or form. And Steve just sits there and lets her do it. But does that surprise you, considering Samantha? No, it shouldn't. It shouldn't.
It wasn't even like, can she come? It was just like, Maddie, did you get your bag? Like, we're leaving in the morning to, to go to Mexico, whatnot, and you talked to your mom, right? I mean, it was just known. It was just a known fact.
That's why there's a lot of pictures where they're like, if you zoom in the background, there's always, Maddie, or if you there's a picture of Maddie, then Kaylee's in the background. So even like, we have like cement fingerprints where you do
the handprints by the pool.
Maddie's in those as well because she was here when we laid those concrete. So
yeah,
they were very close, and
all through.
That's like you said, it was a forever thing. They had known each other what seemed like forever because you don't really remember much about first and second grade, and they got, since their memory was, they'd always been best friends. So
they really were. And our family loved Maddie, and even all the other sisters in the house did. So, it wasn't like, sometimes a friend can come in and, a sister or a brother be like, I don't like her. She's a total brat, or she's mean, or she's rude. She never was. Like Steve, sometimes she would go into Steven's room and they would sit there and chit chat for a couple hours. She would go hang out with the little girls and be like, you guys want to play a game here? I'll do your makeup. Let's paint your nails. Let's do your hair. So, the little girls loved her, and Kaylee would be like, what are you doing? Like, why are you in my sister's room? Like, whatever, Maddie, Yeah. So the only one that would get mad would be Kaylee, because she would be like, I can't believe this. You're supposed to be like with me.
But she was a single child. So for her, having a house filled with different personalities, doing different things was a fun thing. So that's why they really got along, because Kaylee go to her house and it was just very quiet and very
but she got that one-on-one attention from Karen and Scott, that one-on-one child attention that Maddie got. And she was like, this is so nice. Like,
that right here is what pissed everybody off that actually found when we found out about Samantha Nelson and the situation with that whole thing. That's what really pissed off people the most, is that they have a whole nother child. And she has issues. Okay. She's very open about her addiction. She goes back and forth. She has really good times. She has really bad times. The last few months have been really, really, well, maybe like even closer to a year, have been pretty bad for her. If you're watching her on TikTok, it's been pretty bad. Okay. And it doesn't help that she is sitting here and have had to watch her father, who she already had a strained ass relationship with, talk about the family to the world, and it's 5 instead of 6. And they all know about her. All of them know. Olivia, Steve Jr., Kristi, and they all keep to that. And that's not true. So while at first it was real cute, it was real sentimental, and it really was like, oh man, this is horrible. And it is horrible regardless. But for them, I was like, damn, they lost 2. That's so freaking crazy because of Maddie and how close she was to the whole family, blah, 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 whatever. But then the way that they kept saying that Maddie was like a second daughter and all this other shit, to know he actually does have a whole nother daughter that he doesn't do anything with. But then he comes and brings in this stranger and suddenly she's this other daughter when you just trash the one you actually have. And losing Kaylee and Maddie together did not even try to make him think, man, I need to go freaking try to fix my relationship with the daughter that I trashed, because she's been trying to reach out to me for years and everything never goes right. And that's my fault. I suck. It's time to man up. No. He throws Bible verses at her and gets mad at her because she's heartbroken and emotional over how she's been treated and what the hell she's been seeing, and about losing Kaylee before she ever really had the chance to have a real relationship with her. But I've read messages. Kaylee was telling Samantha all about Jack Decor and how much she liked him. There were instances where Kaylee would try to have a relationship with Samantha, and she would even say that she didn't want Kristi to find out because Kristi would get mad at her. I have these messages. Samantha posted them all over the place. So for those, again, who want to sit here being all pissed off because I run this mouth, I speak the truth. I have questions, and I'm disgusted by actions. And if you're any kind of human at all that actually gives a shit, you would have problems with this too. They came out here trying to pretend this fake love story with Jack and Kaylee that didn't exist. They came out here and acted like Maddie was this other daughter for them, and everything was so tragic from losing 2 when they have a kid that needs them, that they ignore. And a grandkid, by the way, because Sam has a daughter. This doesn't come from nothing. It comes from years of listening to the bullshit. I didn't just wake up yesterday and decide I was just going to run my mouth. No, this has been coming, been happening, been a thing. And I'm still here talking about it. So obviously there's nothing that they can do to really stop me, because nothing I'm saying is false. That's another thing people don't seem to hello, everything that they keep doing. I'm still talking. I'm still giving this opinion. Could that change tomorrow? Yeah, cool. It could. It very well could. I'm not stupid. But Samantha exists. Maddie was not your daughter, and y'all lie all the time. And I'm tired of hearing you all the time talk shit about Kaylee. And if I'm the bad guy for questioning Dylan and being mad at them because they talk shit about somebody who's dead and can't defend themselves and that had to fight for her own shit forever and was trying to get the hell away from y'all and never got the chance to, y'all blind as hell. Get off the internet. For real, for real.
You know, like, you know, your guys' dinners and you guys eat dinner at the table. I mean, I'm throwing plates out like, hurry up and eat, don't make a mess, you know?
Yeah, fighting over portions.
And you know, so they got.
Did he just say fighting over portions?
And you guys eat dinner at the table. I mean, I'm throwing plates out like, hurry up and eat, don't make a mess, you know?
Yeah, fighting over portions.
And you know, so they got the best of both worlds, you know, because Kaylee loved going over there. And I mean, even though she wasn't the only child, because Maddie was there.
And I'm not trying to say that Kaylee never loved Jack ever. Kaylee was head over heels for that little dude. Kaylee was head over heels for Jack in these damn messages that she sent to Sam. Love, struck, all of the things, okay, as a damn young girl. Yes. But she grew up. She grew up. He did not grow with her. She outgrew him. That's natural with those relationships. So the fact, again, that they keep coming out here and they're the ones who put this fantastical love story out there in the media. They've been broken up for 3 months, bro. That came out of Jack's own face. 3 months. Not weeks. Months. She was just trying to get back with Mason Barstow. She was trying to get him to cancel the plans he'd made already to go and be with her that night. Kristi needs to realize the way her daughter wanted to live. I know it's hard, man. Trust me. Oh my God, you don't have any idea. I get it. This ain't the way to do this. Continuing on a false reality. That's not what Kaylee would have wanted. I don't care that I didn't know her in real life. I'm a human. I'm a woman. I'm a daughter. I'm a mother. I'm also really good at paying attention. This is disturbing. This is disturbing. Jack is still around. He's not just going to magically disappear if you admit the truth here. And is that what she's worried about? I don't know. But it's weird. It's weird.
She had that sense of the feeling of what it's like to be an only child. And sometimes that's exactly what she wanted. And, you know, and you need. So, you know, they did. They had the only child world. And then they had the world, you know, full of, you know, a bunch of kids. So
I sure have.
They're great. I mean, we miss them so much. It's just so hard that, you know, that we lost both of them. I think that really is, well,
you can't prepare for that.
I mean, you know, but
everyone's heard of somebody losing one child, but then you think, you know, you lose two and you're like, and so much of what they knew about each other was them. So many questions that we had was for Maddie, and questions that we had about Maddie, we would ask Kaylee. So you just this big moment of your life, because
more than
both people that were there are gone.
Yeah, you know, so you know, it just kind of.
Sam and Olivia before, when she had her cute little cherub face. Oh my God. Samantha and Olivia could have been like twins, honestly. Like, they look so freaking much alike. They make beautiful children. Oh my God. Steve has made nothing but gorgeous. I mean, have y'all seen the other two? My God. Gorgeous freaking children. Samantha is beautiful. It's just so crazy to me. It's just so crazy how can you look in your other kids' faces and know how much they look like the daughter that you tossed off and not have any sort of anything. I just don't understand it. I just don't understand it.
Goes back to that day, you know, when I immediately started calling Maddie over and over. And I mean, we really felt like something had happened to Kaylee, but we were still holding out and I was just like, I don't get it. Why is Maddie not answering the phone? Like, answer the phone.
See, and that's what really pissed me off in that stupid thing yesterday that we went over, because that author, that loser who wrote that While Idaho Slept book was like, basically trying to act like the Goncalveses were like Maddie's saving freaking grace because she came from some sort of broken home. Yes, her parents were divorced. Her parents were not together. Her mother had remarried and Ben was with someone else. And yes, there was issues, but Ben and Maddie were best friends. They were concert besties. They were like this. Karen and Maddie were freaking so close. So close. I did not appreciate at all the way that guy was like, Maddie came from a broken home, but she'd go over to blah, blah, blah. What are you trying to throw out there? What are you doing? It was really uncalled for. It really was. It really was.
Oh, Maddie, answer the phone, and it never dawned on me until, the police came and, said that it was a quadruple. And I mean, also it just hit me and I was just like, wait a minute.
It doesn't happen.
Wait a minute. So,
And so that's how you had found out that Kaylee had died, was the police had come to your house and they gave you at least some information.
Well, we found out earlier in the day, not confirmation, because I was like, until that sheriff comes.
Not confirmation. Your blood niece called you and told you that Kaylee had been shot. You had people calling your two minor children on their phones, on their FaceTimes, telling y'all what had happened. You're calling Kaylee's phone. You're calling Maddie's phone. And a long time ago, y'all were also saying that you were calling Jack's phone. That's why we question, why didn't he answer? Why didn't he call you? Because he was sitting in that back of that cop car, not detained, with his phone the whole time. The whole time. He didn't answer. He didn't call you. He didn't text you. Nothing. He wasn't answering. That's why you were tripping. Just wait till he tells you the reason. Just listen for Steve.
This is just a bad mix-up. Something's not right.
Also, while this was all going on, they were also seeing the news showing the house their daughter lived in on the news. Like, they were watching it on the news, seeing the cops, seeing the house, and she still was like, wait till I get a knock on the door, because it was Kaylee. So she could just brush it off. Let's be serious.
I was really trying to hold out hope, but we did get a call earlier in the day from my niece saying that something bad had happened down in Moscow. And her husband's cousin goes to U of I, and she had called them and said, is your cousin Kaylee Goncalves? And isn't your cousin? And Sabrina's like, yeah. And she's just like, I'm pretty sure that Kaylee died.
Part of the, community's not ready for something like this, but the university found out before we did, and then they did a vandal alert. So some of the students
that were just sitting outside their house.
Maddie did. Karen got a call. See, that's another thing. I'm glad that you put that in here, Foxy Blackbird. That's the truth. It took hours for them to be notified because Kaylee did not have them written down for emergency contact information at the university. We found that out in the police reports that came out when they were talking about how they needed to contact the families, and they had dispatched out after finally getting information from other people about how to get a hold of them, because she did not have them listed. Not her older brother, not her older sister either. Pretty important.
More than we knew.
Yeah.
So people are like, why don't we just jump in the car and drive down there? Well, we already had somebody driving down there. Yeah. And I was on call for the hospital. You can't just go out of cell range. You sign a contract. You can't just leave and go an hour and a half away from the hospital. So
your job is more important than your daughter being murdered, Steve? I'm sorry. So you're going to sit here and pretend like people don't work and have on-call positions and don't know the reality of how things actually work here? You being on call is not an excuse. You call your boss and say, my kid's house is on the news. There's been a quadruple homicide and I can't get a hold of her. Someone else needs to take my position. I'm out of here. 30 seconds. And why did you have to go to Moscow? Why couldn't Kristi go to Moscow? Why couldn't any of the other adults in your house go to Moscow? See what I mean? An excuse. Your job was more important than your dead daughter? I don't know what the actual shitty shit you thought you were doing, coming out here and saying this dumb shit, but you just made yourself look worse. Worse. And he's going to say it twice, by the way. You can't just go on a stone range when you're on call with the hospital while your daughter's dead. What? But they're such great parents, and I'm such a bitch for constantly saying something about them. I almost lost my job when shit was going down with my daughter because F that job. What? You know how many times I walked out that bitch because I got a phone call from one of her doctors and I don't have the time to ask permission? What? Yeah, a hospital IT guy on call. Now, they do have that. They do have IT guys that go on call. That's a thing. Every facility that I've ever worked does have that. What kind of emergency do you think is going to happen? And also, again, do not tell me that you don't have a contact or a secondary, because I know the protocols. Your job was your excuse? No. I want more information about your urgent care visit earlier that morning, Steve, where this thing magically showed up on your face right around the same time that your daughter was being murdered. Because remember, your little wifey sitting next to you is the one who told us about that, and she probably wasn't supposed to. On call, you loser, asshole, you piece of absolute trash. Your job was more important than your child being murdered. All the excuses. How disgusting.
We stayed here and we were in communication with Karen. And then when they came and told us at the door that they were both gone, because we had heard that Karen was going to the hospital for somebody that was injured or something had happened.
Yeah, it was all a lot of just what is happening, you know?
There was nothing. And it was all rumors.
Our whole family was...
I wouldn't even have remembered I had a job. I'd been like, everything else just disappeared. And I am tunnel visioned, bitch. I don't know what the hell he thought he was doing. What a stupid ass. You're dumb. You're dumb, Steve. You're dumb.
Here that day, it was a Sunday, and we were here watching the Raider game.
Exactly. I wouldn't even have bothered calling. I would have just gone. I mean, what's going to happen? Some emergency takes place because somebody forgot their password and didn't change it in time and they're locked out. Cool. Make them put in a damn note and clock out. Like, I'm sorry. Why is that your thought? See what I mean? His job was going to be his excuse. He's such a loser, bro. My God. You can't come back from that one, Steve. You just told us that your job that might not even happen, because on call just means you're sitting around waiting for just in case something happens. So even though you literally were in the middle of doing nothing but sitting on your ass watching football, drinking a beer too, from what I understand, right, mister? I'm on call and technically on the clock. We forget that part. He never once ever before, ever in the past almost 4 years, ever mentioned his ass was on call that day. Ever. And now that's the excuse that he thinks that people are just going to accept. I'm more pissed that she didn't just say, stay your ass here then and take off without him. Exactly. And what's even worse is that what they say here, and this is a part of this that we've already heard before. He's going to say that the sheriff finally gets there a few minutes after they get off the phone with Karen, and Karen is still on her way down there. The sheriff tells them that it's both Kaylee and Maddie, and instead of instantly calling Karen so that Karen can hear it from people that she's known for a decade, that she loves, that she respects, that she's friends with, they don't call Karen and tell her what happened. They let Karen continue driving down there she's also with Scott, so it's not like she was by herself. They could have called her. They didn't bother to even call Karen and let her know that they just found out that Maddie was dead and Kaylee was dead. They allowed Karen to continue driving down to Moscow to be told by strangers. I didn't like that either. And they make an excuse for that too, which I find selfish.
A lot of just what is happening, you know.
There was nothing. It was all rumors.
Our whole family was here that day. It was a Sunday, and we were here watching the Raider game. And when you do go down to Boise or to Moscow, I mean, I could have went.
I could have went. I could have went. I could have went. I could have went. You heard that? Yeah, you could have.
It was a Sunday, and we were here watching the Raider game. And when you do go down to Boise or to Moscow, I mean, I could have went.
You think? You think? But you didn't.
Here that day, it was a Sunday, and we were here watching the Raider game. And when you do go down to Boise or to Moscow, I mean, I could have went. You do lose cell range for a long time, and
I really want to know what this guy's thoughts were listening to how, because it's obvious he doesn't know shit. Okay. What did you think right there, sir? When you hear that they're being told by her niece and by all these people that their daughter's dead and they're making an excuse about being on call and watching the Raiders game. Whenever I'm the bad guy though, guys, there's people all over Facebook right now bitching that I'm even mentioning the fact that Sundance did something to the victims' photos because I'm constantly saying something to Olivia and going off on Steve and Kristi. You stupid nitwits. Y'all are dumb. Every single one of you dumb shits over there are straight up stupid. Maybe take a listen. Quit getting your third-party information from people that look like leather faces and horses. And maybe then you'd see what the hell's actually happening here. I'm just saying. Just saying.
I think just that idea of going and not potentially being able to like get that important call that you were literally waiting for from Kaylee. And we were all kind of rallied here as a family. I think that, you know, because a lot of people ask us, why didn't you guys go down there? And, you know, I don't know. We honestly just kept waiting for someone to say, hold up, everything's fine. She drank too much last night or something and she's unconscious, but she's in the hospital. She's stable, but we were calling the hospital and we weren't getting.
So you were hoping someone was just going to call you and tell you your daughter was in the hospital? Instead of taking your asses down there to see if she was in the freaking hospital so you could check on her and be with her in the hospital? Every time they talk, hey, accomplished day, every single time these people talk, it makes it worse.
Of that. So,
my God,
you know, our heads were just like, just stay put right now. Just stay put. Yeah. Let's get some more information. You know, it wasn't
a
about
lot of rumors.
Yeah, it wasn't about, you know, it's 2 hours away and our daughter's not worth 2 hours of driving. It was nothing like that.
The rumors weren't consistent. They were like, oh, there's like, what was it, fentanyl? And it was just all over the place.
She OD'd and we're like, there's no way. There's no way.
We had plenty of people down there what we still knew from my son was still enrolled in school. So we still were talking with people directly and we just didn't know what was going on.
Well, Stephen had graduated the year before, but he's still.
No, this is where this gets interesting. How the hell do you not know information like this about your kid? Okay. Steve just said Steve Jr. was still enrolled in school. That's what I thought was the case. And there was an interview that I recorded of them from a long time ago, but recorded here recently because you guys know I'm going back and like getting stuff. Where they're talking about how Steve Jr. is going to be walking to get Kaylee's degree. And they say something about how he was giving up his own graduation in order to do this for his sister and putting himself aside to do this walk for Kaylee to get her degree. And they knew that they were going to need to still do something separate for him so that he still has his own acknowledgement. Okay, that was from an interview that they did like right before the walk to get the degree for Kaylee. He just said that Steve was still enrolled in school. Now she's going to say he graduated the year before. How do y'all not have the same story for when your son was in college? I'm very confused.
We still knew from my son was still enrolled in school. So we still were talking with people directly.
You did.
And We just didn't know what was going on.
Well, Stephen had graduated the year before, but he still talked to his whole fraternity were, they were texting him and whatnot.
Yeah. Look at Steve, bro. Oh my, can we please get an unbiased, never before known of these people ever behavioral person to watch these? Look at Steve and how look his faces. They don't even know what they're doing anymore.
Just didn't know what was going on.
Well, Stephen had graduated the year before, but he still talked to his whole fraternity were, they were texting him and whatnot, messaging him and stuff like that. And he's like, I heard she OD'd, and then, we heard that there was a party and she was shot. And then the news was reporting that there was an unconscious person. So we're not that anybody was dead. There was an unconscious person. So, we're constantly calling in the hospital. We were calling in the police department, and they were telling us nothing. The hospital was saying no
report of anything.
And MPD was saying nothing going on here. And we're like, what do you mean? Like, are you sure? Our daughter, Kaylee Goncalves, so we were.
See, and I don't even believe that. I want phone records. I'm going to FOIA that. Can I FOIA that? Somebody has to have like a call log that shows that they called in and talked to the Moscow Police Department and were told, no, sorry, I have no idea what to tell you. I don't know what the frick she's trying to say. Because I don't see a world where they called in after the Moscow Police Department was having so many issues trying to find them, and somebody didn't instantly call them back or snatch up the phone. So I would really like call log proof that y'all called them. Sorry, I don't trust you.
I feel
like I need to. Probably were under instructions not to tell anybody over the phone that something was
They were watching. That's what I'm telling you. They were getting calls from her niece. They were getting calls from people that lived in the neighborhood. They were getting their two young daughters that were minors were getting FaceTime calls and calls from strangers all over social media telling them that Kaylee was dead. And they were watching the news, seeing the 1122 King House on the news, listening to what people, they were watching all of this and still didn't go. For hours. For hours. They weren't hearing from their child for hours. And no one left. This isn't just about the instant moment. This is about the hours and hours and hours in between before that damn sheriff came knocking at their door. And neither one of them left. There is no excuse. And anybody who wants to take up for these people when Kaylee wasn't worth the drive, you're sick. You have cult issues. Fix yourself.
As far as we knew, nothing had been going on that was official, and Karen and Scotty were on the way there.
They were on down.
So nothing was official, but Karen and Scott were on their way down there. Nothing was alarming, but Maddie's parents were off their asses and going down to Moscow. I want to know what's going through this dude's head so bad. Oh my God.
When they got the word, because they heard something as well at some point. I'm not exactly sure how they got their news, but they did jump in the car but they heard that it was Kaylee, and they were going down, and they were like, or Xana, they thought it was Xana. And they were like, we're going to bring Kaylee and Maddie home. We're going down. So when I talked to Karen, she's like, no, I don't know what's happening, but me and Scott will bring Kaylee and Maddie home.
That part is true. Karen was not Karen got a phone call and they left to go down there. And she said in her own interviews that at first that's what she was thinking, that something else had happened to somebody else, and that she was going to be going down there and picking up Kaylee and Maddie and coming back. That is something that Karen has said. This next portion to me is just effed up in my opinion, because again, they knew that Maddie was dead before Karen got to the police department and was told by the strangers at the police department. And they did not call so that she could hear that from people that, that they had in their life for so long. So she heard it from a source that actually cared about her. She gets to listen to it from a stranger 25, 30 minutes later. And I don't like that. I'm sorry. That's not how I would move. I don't like it.
We're going to get him. We're bringing him home. It was a lot.
With all the rumors and everything, I mean, that can be really confusing. And obviously you're not getting any updates from official sources. But
Karen wasn't even aware that it was Maddie, and she still gave a shit enough to leave. And these two are talking about on-call situations, which again just means you're on for just in case purposes. There's literally nothing actually happening. You're waiting for a just in case. 9 times out of 10, on-call people have uneventful shifts. And she's like, I could have gone, but that Raiders game was on, bro. These are pathetic people. I don't understand people that kiss these people's ass, bro. I don't get it.
When the police finally did come to your door, did they have any information at all, or were they just
Not
telling
like they were,
you that Kaylee had passed away and to contact Moscow Police Department?
They came in and they said,
we crossed off the rumors we'd heard. We said, was there a shooting? Was there fentanyl? And he said, no, that's all BS, guys.
He said, no. He said,
which I'm very grateful he did that, because
he told us. He said, no, it was none of that. He said, this was a homicide. And I said, a homicide? And he said, I said, she was murdered. And right now we're still thinking just Kaylee. I said, she was murdered. Somebody murdered her. And he said,
that's the first time we actually heard of a murder.
He said,
so people who are thinking that we just jump in the car and drive. I was on call hospital. I'm supposed to be within 25 miles of the hospital. And you're not going to just jump in there when you've only heard it's an unconscious person at a party. You're like, what's that mean? And somebody's already on the way down there. Something's bad. But
something's bad. It's all over the news. You're getting 15 calls a minute. But you were on call, bro. This dude's a fucking loser. Oh my God, this dude is such a loser. 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 Thank you for the $9.99 Milky Moo. I don't know how to promise that. I'm not a parent, but when my brother was killed in 2017, I'm so sorry. And it was seconds after that phone call. We drove all night to get there. And I live in West Virginia, driving to Florida. These parents, they irritate me. Exactly. If this was a married couple and this was a husband and the wife was murdered or missing, all of this shit right here would be the biggest red flags to anybody. If this was a young child and a young couple, like the Lily and Jack situation, or Quentin Simon, like if it was anything like that, okay, and the parents that were left behind were saying the kind of crazy ass, selfish, demented shit that these two are saying, everybody would be on their asses. Everybody would be on their asses. That's literally all we ever see. But because it's them, blinders, earmuffs. I don't get it. It's disgusting and I don't understand it.
We're calling the hospital and they were telling us that Kaylee wasn't in the hospital. They were
Yeah.
But no, he did confirm that it was, he said, yes, ma'am. He said it was actually a quadruple.
I don't know the time exactly, Jackie. She didn't say the time. She just said that it was in the early morning hours. And so I just assumed that it was probably around the exact same time because it's something that's triggered by like anxiety and stress and shit like that. And it's, according to her, the only time in their entire 20 plus now 30-year relationship he'd ever had to go to urgent care. And it happened to be that morning. She only mentioned it in one interview. One. She probably was not supposed to, but she did. It was about, a year and a half, almost 2 years after the case. And it threw everybody back like, I'm sorry, where the hell was Steve? What happened? That's weird. That's weird. So he's on call, but he's also got like a rash that's taken him to the emergency room. So no doctor's note, no, hey, I had to go to urgent care and now I've got diagnosed with something and I'm in a lot of pain with this thing on my face and they gave me some meds and I need somebody to take my on-call shift. Not any of that. How early did y'all start drinking with that football game? Because I'm really wondering if that's the reason why y'all didn't go anywhere. Were y'all drunk? Were y'all just wasted? Completely day wasted watching the football game? Because, I mean, if that's the case, cool. Just tell us. At least it's a real excuse. not to drink and drive, and then, you know, y'all die on the way down there. I mean, that'd be horrible, but you could at least be honest. I mean, damn. I just don't understand how they think that any of this is cute, kosher, or any damn thing else. None of this makes y'all look good at all.
Homicide. And I said a quadruple homicide. And then that's when I asked, I said, can you confirm if one of the other victims was Madison Mogen? And he said, yes, ma'am. And I was like,
we had just got off the phone with her mom, and we're just like, what do we do now?
She was 25 minutes out, right? I got off the phone with Karen right before the sheriff pulled up, and she said, I'm 25 minutes out.
Tell us that. I mean,
of Moscow.
You don't know when you wake up that morning that your daughter's dead and you're going to get a phone call. And if you're day drinking, watching the football game, there's nothing wrong with that either. People do whatever the hell they want to do. Okay. If you're watching the football game and you're having a couple beers, all you have to do is just be honest if that's the case. Because on call for work ain't an excuse, baby. I'm sorry. You just sound stupid.
As I get them, you know, I'll have Kaylee call you. And I was like, okay, perfect. You know, she just thought that, you know, and again, the news was still reporting it's a unconscious person. The hospital was telling us it wasn't Kaylee. You know,
See, they didn't even bother to call Karen. They knew about it 25 minutes before Karen got to Moscow and found out. And people that actually care about her could have called her and said, hey, I need you to pull over. We need to talk. We just got a knock on the door from a sheriff. We need to talk about what they told us. And all she would have had to have done is had her and Scott pull over the car. And then they could have told her on the damn phone instead of them being told by strangers. I mean, I know that's just a thing, but they made a conscious decision. These two made a conscious decision not to call Karen and tell her themselves. And I don't vibe with that at all. I don't like it.
We're a small community still, so it's not like, you know, a lot of people even went through a dry run of something like this. The communication wasn't.
And I think we were really just trying to not accept that, just not believe.
Exactly. When he comes out and says that the reason why he didn't go over there that night is because he was drinking and he wished he would have drove, nobody faults Jeff for that at all. I feel so freaking bad for him because I don't know if he's remembering things right. And I only say that because in the damn police report, when they're talking, like the police report that's written up for them talking to Jeff and Jazz, they both have them last talking to Xana on Friday night, not Saturday. And his entire thing that he has said himself has always been about Saturday night. And I'm like, damn, has he been holding on to this? Like, I should have went over there because I could have fought this dude. Has he been holding on to that for all this time? And he's got the wrong date in his mind because his phone actually says Friday, but his brain is telling him Saturday. That's something that I've been really freaking curious about because the damn police report says Friday. But you can tell that he regrets it, but no one faults him for that. No one would fault them for that if that was the case. But at this point, I'd still fault you because you've been lying this entire time. I'd be like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. But F you still because you came out here and told 1,000 million different stories for 4 years. For nothing. For nothing. So I think it's just a little bit too late for these people. But the reality is, just like with Olivia's dumb bitch shit about, oh my God, if they would have called 911, then everybody would have been complaining about that too, because, oh my God, what kind of house do they live in where they just think they hear some noises and people are being murdered? That is not the case, you stupid dumb shit. I cannot stand these people. God, I can't stand these people.
Leave that. Like, no, let's not get, everybody calm down. It's going to be okay,
Yeah.
Like, there's no way Kaylee OD'd on drugs, because we're like, there's no way. Like, yeah, I know you don't know everything.
The last murder was 2007 or something like that. So, I mean, it's not, this is a normal thing in our community. Like, that's not even on the list of things that you.
So somebody being unconscious made more sense. Like, something,
sure. Even the drugs and the partying and something like that made way more sense than our kids murder. Were a part of some crazy mass murder. That made no sense at all.
And I didn't realize that Maddie and Kaylee were friends prior to college. But with you guys living so close to, in Idaho, so close to the college, were you guys close? Had you met all?
I'm really sorry about your daughter. I've heard a lot of stories where parents have felt it. Parents have felt it. So you know what? If Steve really went to the emergency room that morning, could it be because he felt it? I mean, I can't say that that's not possible if he really has a connection to Kaylee that maybe we just don't realize because he allows Kristi to talk all the shit. But maybe he was closer to Kaylee than Kristi was. And maybe the rash came on because something inside of him twisted up. If they would just be honest about things, we could believe shit like that. But they just want to lie all the time. But I have heard where parents have felt when their children were killed. They felt when they were gone, something inside of them just changed. And they felt it in the instant. And they always end up finding out later when the time of death comes out or the situation comes out or the last timestamp of this happening or last being seen on camera. There's been lots of stories like that. Very possible. But they've only mentioned the urgent care thing once and they don't give us the time. So I don't know. I don't know.
The other people that lived in the house that lost their lives that day?
So we had not, we had not met
She
Xana.
just recently moved to that house. That's why we had met the other houses that they had been at, the Whites, and also
She had moved in May, and she wound up coming home all summer. So she had just went back in August, and that's when most of the new room.
What the hell do you mean she ended up going back all summer? Everyone else has just told us over these interviews coming out, especially old Jackie boy Kristi, told us that Kaylee was in Xana's room for the summer and she was sharing it with another girl. He never mentioned the fact that she was back home all summer. So how is she literally bunking with another girl in Xana's room before she goes up to the third floor, but she's home all summer? I don't know. I guess were there stuff just all together in the same room? I can't trust what they say about where Kaylee goes because they're the ones who started the whole thing about her leaving and moving out. And now they want to come out and be like, anyone saying that Kaylee moved out that house is spreading misinformation, but it was you. So I can't trust anything they say anymore. I don't know what the hell's going on. Yeah, May to November is definitely not recent. May was right at the end of the beginning, right at the end of the previous school year. My Amazon package must be here because my dogs are tripping.
Roommates moved in, Bethany, Dylan, Xana, and we had not met them. Kaylee came home more often than we went down there. She came up, and when I say home, this is home.
do laundry, do big cook, food, cooking.
We're
in a little resort town, so all these employees, as long as you're a good worker, which all my kids, I would make sure that they are good. They leave every opportunity with a good standing. They'll let you come and work a weekend.
Yeah, they'll just be like, hey, I'm going to be in town.
I don't want to miss this and I can't really hear it. So give me a second because I can hear. I got something to help organize the kitchen and I can hear the truck, but the guy's taking a minute because it's a bigger box and the dogs are freaking out. Oh, wait, did they calm down a little bit? It's usually Boomer. He's the biggest one, but he's the loudest little whiner. Is he done? Okay, I think he's done.
Recently moved to that house. That's why we had met the other houses that they had been at, the Whites, and also
She had moved in May, and she wound up.
See, the ear thing, I don't trust her when she does that shit. When she does this stuff, she does this shit when she's lying. We noticed it a lot with the past few interviews, especially when she's telling something that she knows is not true. She did this especially when she was lying about the 11-12 cameras to Chris Hansen. So I think when they're saying they visited her at the Whites, is she doing that because the reality is that she didn't go to the Whites to ever see Kaylee? I don't know, but she's lying about something right here.
Moved to that house. That's why we had met the other houses that they had been at, the Whites, and also
She had moved in May, and she.
As she went to agree with him. She's lying.
She wound up coming home all summer. So she had just went back in August, and that's when most of the new roommates moved in.
It's ridiculous that we've watched them for so long that we know their patterns.
Bethany, Dylan, Xana, and we had not met them. Kaylee came home more often than we went down there. She came up. And when I say home,
which is not abnormal.
do laundry, do big cook, food, cooking.
You know, she
we're in a little resort town, so all these employees, as long as you're a good worker, which all my kids, I would make sure that they are good. They leave every opportunity with a good standing. They'll let you come and work a weekend.
Yeah, they'll just be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend. Can you know?"
Why he always has to say something that makes himself look like the star. I always make sure that my kids are good employee and good employers and good employees. That you always can just go back anytime you want to because I made sure that they're top notch. An alpha doesn't have to tell you he's an alpha. A real head of household doesn't have to keep telling you how he is the head of household. It's very obvious here. Kristi wears the pants. Steve, you can quit pretending, babe. We already know. We get it.
I would make sure that they are good. They leave every opportunity with a good standing. They'll let you come and work a weekend.
Yeah, they'll just be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend. Can you throw me some hours?" And they'll be like, "Sure." You know, so Jack would do the same thing. You know,
get some spending money.
Yeah, getting frustrated. See, I've been watching them so much that I'm not watching the I'm not watching the interviewer's face. But I just noticed he's like moving around and trying to like reposition himself. That's a sign of discomfort. Now, it could be physical discomfort. I know I move around a lot in this chair, which hopefully in the next week or two, I can get this other chair that I've been trying to get. But this right here just seems like he's just, he's mentally, emotionally uncomfortable. That's what it looks like. Like, how could you listen to this? Not knowing the dynamics, but just listening to the excuses and the very, very elongated descriptions of things that are unnecessary, all the freaking noise in here. There's no reason for this interview to be an hour and a half. You're talking about the foundation. You're supposed to just be trying to get some information out there. Y'all are just saying shit. I just really wish I knew what was going through this guy's head.
Yeah, they'll just be like, "Hey, I'm going to be in town this weekend. Can you throw me some hours?" And they'll be like, "Sure." So Jack would do the same thing.
Get some spending money.
Yeah. So
get their laundry done. So it happened all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and you get a police officer coming to your door and telling you not only was your child murdered, but murdered along with 3 of her best friends.
Yeah.
I mean, you can only imagine what that's like. But talk a little bit about what it's like to know that your child has been murdered and there's no killer. They don't know who it is. The killer's on the loose. What was that like? I mean, what kind of feelings did you guys have with that aspect of it?
I remember very clearly the officer being here, telling us that it was a homicide and there were 4. And I had never ever, you've heard the term weak in the knees. That is true. I remember like literally getting like super weak in the knees, like weakened knees, and just being like, like just your body just starts to kind of like panic. And we said, "What do we do? Should we go down there?" At this point we're like, and he said, "No, there's no reason to go down there. There's nothing you can do. Here's a card and call this detective in the morning." And we were like, we look at this card and we're like, in the morning, it's 5 o'clock. Like we have to wait till the morning.
Why'd you listen?
And
it sat at that door right there for probably 2 years. His business card, we just set it there in case we needed to call it. And
well, we did. It soon became a well-known number to us, but we just
why'd you listen? Why'd you wait?
I think you instantly go into complete
his
shock.
His hat is the murder has a name little tree that they use as their icon. It's a merch hat. It's a hat for their foundation. Because now Steve Jr. gets the cross hat. Steve Jr. has been posing in the cross hat.
It's like a sensory overload.
It's denial. It's there's no way. I just talked to her, and we had just talked to her, and she was just here, and you're thinking homicide, like what? Were they beaten? Were they shot? Were they suffocated? You just don't understand. And I just don't think that as humans, we are, there something happens, to just not numb it. It's not numb, but to kind of disconnect the brain, because I think it's just too much for a parent.
Yes, it's just like,
and see, like this, I don't disagree with this. There's nothing she's saying right now that makes me feel like she's not being honest about this. I know that there's a visceral reaction. I'm not saying that they didn't have a visceral reaction, but when your follow-up before then getting confirmation is to just not give a shit, it's hard for me to feel sorry for you past the minimal amount that I know that I should, because you lost your child, because you didn't care for hours. You didn't care for hours. And again, it wasn't just the initial contact situation and them trying to get a hold of people and not being able to get a hold of them, and they freaked out for 30 minutes, okay? This was hours of not being able to get a hold of their child, and neither one of them left to go to where they knew their child actually was the last time that they talked to their child. So while, yes, I do believe that this is how she reacted, when you know the follow-up of give no shit, how am I supposed to react to this? Am I supposed to cry? Am I supposed to feel a twinge in my heart? I don't. Not for these people. For Karen, I do. For Ben, I do. For Xana's mother and father, I do. For Stacy, Chapin, and Jim, not so much. Not after the basement comments and the erasing of Ethan everywhere. No, I don't. Especially when she introduces them as their typical test tube babies. Typical lab babies, because, you know, it was a forced pregnancy. Not forced like she didn't want to be pregnant. They had to have help getting pregnant. In vitro. Or whatever the hell they did. It wasn't a natural pregnancy. When you introduce your kid like that, and then you say, well, we're down one, time to move on, I can't have any sympathy for you. I just have more sympathy for your child. And that's where we've been with these people too. I watch Ben talk about Maddie and I feel it. I know Kara wasn't always in Xana's life, but when she talks about Xana, I feel it. When Jeff cried and talked like he did at the sentencing, oh, I felt that. I don't feel nothing for these people. I really don't see how a lot of people can. But a lot of people don't listen to everything that they say. They only see what they do when they go on interviews on mainstream media and to the channels that are promoted by the Goncalveses. They don't see the facts. They're all here for the wrong reasons, in my opinion.
It's a sensory overload where your body just kind of goes into a different mode.
I just like...
And that was like early on, bro. They were standing at the tulip field. Oh my God. That's why I want to go back through all those damn interviews.
Started functioning like
slept all the time.
I just was like a robot. Like, I don't remember people coming over. People were like, oh, you know, when I came over, I'm like, you came over? Yeah. You know, like day 3, I came over and yeah. And I brought you a blanket and I brought you, you know, I don't remember. I just, everything, your fingertips, the tips of your toes, everything hurts your heart. Your heart hurts. I literally hurts. It aches. It just, and you're scared. You're terrified. You're frantic. You're helpless because there's somebody murdered your child.
There wouldn't have been a Christmas. Sorry, my other very adult, almost aged teenage kids. We don't have your sister this year. I'm not decorating a hot damn thing. Sorry, maybe next year. I wouldn't have wanted to sell it. I don't give a shit how back to normal you're trying to get. By Christmas, you didn't even have an arrest. Ain't no way. We having turkey or ham. I don't give a damn. It's just not happening.
And at this point we're talking about, we didn't even how, who, what, when.
I was so much scared. I was angry. I had guns all over my house. I was ready to shoot anything that moved.
Me too.
You know, I got a long driveway. I was like, told the kids that we're not going to become victims and scared for the rest of our life. We'll handle this. If this person's coming after us, then so be it. I did an interview once and actually
look, she looks down. She gets tired of Steve talking. Watch how she does when he starts running his mouth.
Who, what, when?
I was so much scared. I was angry. I had guns all over my house. I was ready to shoot anything that moved. You know, I got a long driveway. I was like, told the kids that we're not going to become victims and scared for the rest of our life. We'll handle this. If this person's coming after us, then so be it. I did an interview once and I actually gave my home address because at that point, I'd just rather it be
They
over.
said, "Are you scared?" And he said, "No. Matter of fact, if you're watching, come on over to our house." And it was like a Fox interview that he literally was like, "My address is blah, 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 blah." And
we had family that was staying over here.
We had family that took off.
And look at him smiling. Ain't nothing cute about what your dumbass did. You put your address out there and scared the shit out of the rest of your family while everyone was in trauma mode. Yeah, big Dad of the Year award there. Oh my God.
Come on over to our house. And it was like a Fox interview that he literally was like, "My address is blah, 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 blah."
So cool.
And we had family that was staying over here.
We had family that took off.
We're leaving.
Our family that night, they're like, "You just did," they watched it live. We were in the office doing it, and they were like, we're not staying here. Like, we are literally going to get an Airbnb tonight.
Annoying.
Like, you just invited the killer to your home. And he's like, "Yep, I did."
I'd rather just.
And I mean, I was just like, I'm like sitting there like, oh my gosh. So they, and our two youngest daughters, they went and stayed at the Airbnb with, our family, and we were like,
even their two youngest daughters. So Steve didn't give a shit about the fact that their daughter just died. He is now saying the dumbest shit he possibly could, to where his other two children are now scared for their own lives, to the point that they're fleeing their house. Yeah, good job, Steve. Good job, Steve. I wonder how big his Father's Day present was that year.
I mean,
oh my God,
the address is going to still be out there tomorrow and the next day.
It was already out there. If you are playing a 4-way murder, you already knew.
But
all the families and all.
I was scared. We had two younger girls. I'm like, dude.
He just said, if you planned a 4-way mass murder, you already know the families and where they live. Are you okay? What? So now he's trying to say that if Bryan's the one that did this, that not only did he stalk the shit out of them to kill them, because he had to have been studying all of their family tree and knows the families and where they live too. That's Steve's rhetoric right now? Steve. Come on, bro.
Already out there. If you are somebody who planned a 4-way murder, you already knew.
But
all the families and all.
I was scared. We had two younger girls. I'm like, dude, we gotta go to school. We were hearing it was targeted. Was it Kaylee that was targeted? Shit. Who was targeted? Are they now targeting our family? It was scary. I didn't sleep much. I didn't come out of my room much, but sleeping was not something that, you just laid in bed and you just would cry and just every emotion besides happiness all at once. And
I as a father went more into a war mode. I was like, I'm going after this guy. I'm going to do every interview. I'm going to drum up as much people's eyeballs as many people want to see and understand and figure this. I'll share this whole case with the whole world. And if enough people get involved and care, then the case won't go cold. Because if there's enough people watching, those type of cases don't go cold.
Enough people were watching. The entire world was watching. We didn't need your help. The case didn't need you to heat things up, Steve. That's not what was needed at all.
The ones that I've always, and I'm no expert or anything, the cases that I've always seen go cold was there was no face. There was no one to talk about it. There was no one behind the camera. It was just super interesting. And then it kind of got cold. There was no evidence and there was no mom or dad, nobody speaking on the behalf, and it just fades away. I was like, I'll make sure that I'm there, and
that interview is the one that they did outside in front of Moscow PD, where they talked about how IGG was going to end up being done in this case, and it was going to end up putting Idaho on the map. Yep, he did say that.
Do everything I possibly can to make sure that the case is still in some kind of spotlight.
We were like, look, because it was I don't know, 6-7 weeks, 55 something days, and
then once they got him, they're like, oh, you got to shut up, you got to be quiet. I'm like, no, I don't have to do anything.
Well,
and that's why your dumbass didn't get told anything, because you wouldn't shut the hell up and you thought that you could do whatever you wanted like a loser. So there's protocols in place for a reason. And if you're going to always tell the police how you're not going to do what the hell they're asking you to do when they're trying to investigate your daughter's murder, They have every right to shut your dumb ass out. So yeah, if they're telling you, okay, we can't let this out, we can't tell this, you're literally out here doing all of this, giving whoever might have been responsible clues to shit because you're a dumbass. That right here, this behavior right here is why the state stopped talking to him. And he can only blame himself. There's one thing to be doing stuff in the background and trying to investigate what happened to your kid. I'd have been doing the exact same shit too. I did the exact same shit too with what happened to Ariel. I did all of my own investigations on top of everything else that was also going on. I get that. But when you're coming out to the media and doing all of this and saying what the cops are telling you, when you're creating Facebook groups and you're going into Reddit forums and you're going into secret Discord chats and you're doing all of this, the cops aren't going to talk to you. And you can only blame yourself for not giving a shit enough about your daughter to put your stupid ego aside, stop pretending to be this fake ass alpha, and shut up. You didn't have to come out here lying about Kohberger, lying about your kid, lying about all these things to keep the case in the forefront. If you want to come out and advocate for your kid, do so. But do it with respect to the freaking investigation. It doesn't matter how we ended up and how it ended up being bullshit. At that point in time, we didn't know that they didn't have nothing. So this goes back to where we were then. We didn't know how shitty it was going to be. But regardless, what they were telling you, you were coming out and telling everybody who would listen. The IGG stuff got thrown around and he just comes out here and says some crazy shit about how it's going to put Idaho on the map. Why are you telling secrets? You can't blame anyone. Steve cannot blame anybody but himself for the lack of communication. And all these years later, has this idiot learned anything? That response right there, that statement right there tells me he hasn't learned shit. And if this were to happen all over again to somebody else in his life, he would do things the exact same way. He wouldn't have learned. This is ridiculous. And he's still going to sit there and talk all the shit, which granted, the shit is granted, but they take no accountability for the fact that it's their fault that they weren't being talked to. Karen Laramie was getting calls quite often, according to one of her interviews. The Chapins were getting calls quite often, having meetings in person quite often. This right here is why. And he hasn't changed. He has not changed.
Do everything I possibly can to make sure that the case is still in some kind of spotlight.
We were like, look, because it was I don't know, 6-7 weeks, 55 something days. And
then once they got him, they're like, oh, you got to shut up. You got to be quiet. I'm like, no, I don't. I don't have to do anything.
Well, a lot of people don't realize this, but they did put non-dissemination.
Bring it out, bitch. What dysfunction? You mean the fact that I was raised in the Jehovah's Witness cult and my grandma thinks that she was one of the 144,000 anointed and that was what my whole upbringing was? Or maybe my parents' divorce when I was 15 and me living and having to, stay in Louisiana and dealing with hurricanes and getting married at 18. Oh, and maybe having to, do everything on my own. No child support, no help. The dysfunction in my family, you mean all of the things that are talked about already? All of the things that I've already said? All of the things that I've already said because I don't have anything to hide? I've been very open. And the more that I'm open, the more that you guys attack me because you only care that we've gone through abuse and attempted murder and everything that's going on. You don't care because I'm not a headline that you can sink your teeth into because I'm not dead. But when survivors come out and talk and they actually have something to discuss, y'all throw bitch fits and act like our stories don't matter. See, I speak on my dysfunction. I speak on it all the time. But because I'm not dead, y'all try to use it against me, which is just weird crackhead behavior. Like really weird crackhead behavior. So go off, Mrs. Ma'am. Literally off a cliff.
Order on the case, a gag order, but our family was not gagged. So people say,
People don't know that.
people say, you know, I don't understand why he didn't get in trouble. He continued to run his mouth and this and that. But
And
our family
supporting
was
your
not
kid
gagged.
is not running your mouth. Any idiot
Yeah.
who thinks that a parent should have their kids murdered and then they need to
Just
be
don't say-
silent about it, like protect the killer's right to privacy, is just a moron. But there's a
It's not about protecting the killer's right to privacy. You were out here doing things against what they needed you to do to keep the investigation where it needed to go before there was a killer that had privacy to be protected. This was pre-Kohberger that these behaviors started. So you can't use that as an excuse either. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
lot of morons in the true crime community that don't fully grasp what it would be like if they were put in our position and put in our shoes and think that they would protect the killer of their kid. Well, maybe you would, but not in my family.
That's
In my
not
family,
what's happening here.
Not me.
yeah, you're getting the bull and the horns, and I'm taking you the whole way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you guys
That
receive case updates along the way, or did they keep you in the dark because they needed to protect the investigation?
We were kept in the dark that whole month of December. This happened in November. We knew nothing. We had no idea the arrest was about to take place at all until the arrest. And then we learned most of the information in the PCA when they brought him back to Idaho. As soon as he touched down to Idaho, the families received an email stamped with our names because they were not to be shared. And in that was all the evidence that the judge had signed off to authorize the arrest on him. So
And when you say
You read
PCA, like the probable cause affidavit,
Yep.
I'm assuming.
Yeah, it
Okay.
was watermarked.
And see, now they're going to act like the PCA even matters. When Thompson himself stood up in court and said that it's an irrelevant piece of paper. There's so many things in that PCA that are not true that we have literal receipts for to prove they're not true. But they're about to give the PCA like all of this gold pedestal treatment. And I don't really quite understand how you can do that after all this time.
and
I
that
don't.
the judge had signed off to authorize the arrest on him. So
And when you say
You read
PCA, like the probable cause affidavit, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was watermarked. It was all protected. Another thing that we've never
watermarked
given out on this whole dissemination order that I'll give it to you because it came to my mind at this time. Our lawyer, they wanted to interview us differently once the gag order.
Listen to this shit right here. This is so shady. This is so shady. Listen to this.
I'll give it to you because it came to my mind at this time. Our lawyer, they wanted to interview us differently once the gag order was in. They wanted to like interview us deeply. And my lawyer's like, well, Steve, if they do that, then the chances of you being included in the gag order are pretty much going to be triggered. You're not going to be able to keep talking. You're not going to be able to advocate for your child. You're just going to be silenced.
They wanted to interview them deeply, and they refused. Now, we heard this happen in court. Shannon Gray had to stand up and say they were refusing to be interviewed by the police before I came along, so them not wanting to talk to the cops doesn't have anything to do with me. But now that I'm here and that's already a situation, this is how we're going to handle this. And he's now saying that that's what Shannon Gray told him, is that if they were interviewed deeply, they would be considered witnesses and wouldn't be able to advocate for their child. I have never heard this ridiculous, out of pocket, out of touch lie before. And this is so ridiculous. Have you seen any other families not want to be interviewed? Remember, Kaylee's like LinkedIn or Indeed, whichever one it was. I think it was LinkedIn. Had all kinds of issues. All kinds of issues. These are the people that wouldn't go to Moscow, making all kinds of excuses not to go to Moscow. The first interview that I found of them, let me check my list. I know on November 20th is the interview that they did on the phone where she calls Kaylee a brat for not being with Jack at that time. But I have a list that I was going off of from when I was recording older stuff. Let me see what this says. Yeah, so on November 20th, 2022 on Fox News, it's them on the phone. And the way that the news anchor puts it out there is that it's the first time that the families were talking to like media or have come out and talked at all. And then 3 days later is when Steve and Olivia are on the news with their faces, where they're asked about the stalking thing. And Olivia says something about how if there was a stalking situation, then Kaylee would have said something to them and they didn't know anything about it. He's also going to like kind of not be honest about that situation in this interview too. So on 11/20, they were in the faceless interview. And what is it that he just said?
Included in the gag order are pretty much going to be
Okay. So when it came to the gag order with their interviews and stuff like that, they were the first people to come out here and want to talk. They're the first people that wanted to be interviewed by mainstream media, that wanted to be interviewed by podcasters, that wanted to be interviewed by YouTubers, that was going around and telling people all kinds of information. But when it came to the cops wanting to interview you deeply, you don't, for the sake of your child's murder investigation, let them talk to you. Why? What are you hiding? There is no way my kid gets murdered and I deny talking to the cops. I'd be sitting there wanting to give them every little damn thing I possibly could. And instead, they're denying even talking to the police, refusing to speak to the police. Then they have the audacity to get mad when the police choose not to talk to them anymore. Well, that's because you're shady as hell. And for some reason, you don't want to be talked to. That's weird behavior. If you have nothing to do with your daughter's murder, why not let them interview you deeply? That's weird. And again, if this was parents of a missing little kid, that there was still like a missing child and there was no answers, people would be red flagging them all day long. Why is this different? The things coming out of their mouth are still just as alarming. What is the circumstance? What does that matter, the circumstance? It shouldn't. That makes you biased. And that's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. Oh, I saw it, Kim. Thank you. Thank you for the $2.99. I mean, for the $1.99. I saw it. Which is crazy too, because that person and that Michi girl, whatever lady, they used to be in here all the time. First ones in the chat, first ones to come in and talk, first ones commenting. I didn't switch up. I've been on the same plane here the whole time. Ain't nothing I've done or said changed. My opinion has remained the same for years now. They're all of a sudden psychopaths and having to get blocked all over the place. I have people talking about them all the time. I don't know what the hell their problem is. Well, thank you for the $4.99 Bluebird. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Oh, thank you for the 20 Yankee. I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. No. I don't really give a shit. I really just don't. My life has been tragic, very hard. And I have a lot that I can relate to, which is another reason why I don't have a lot of patience for stupid. I also don't have a lot of patience for whatever the hell this interview is about. Like, this is just a bunch of, it did not do what they thought it was going to do. It should be the opposite way about for what, Angela? And thank you for being a member. Thank you for being a member.
You're not going to be able to keep talking. You're not going to be able to advocate for your child. You're just going to be silenced.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that. He's admitting that they refuse to speak to the police. What are you hiding? What are you hiding?
Giving out on this whole dissemination order that I'll give it to you because it came to my mind at this time. Our lawyer, they wanted to interview us differently. Once the gag order was in, they wanted to interview us deeply. And my lawyer's like, well, Steve, if they do that, then the chances of you being included in the gag order are pretty much going to be triggered. You're not.
And it's one thing to suddenly have a difference of opinion, but why do you have to come in here being a bitch? We have people in here all the time that think differently than us. We have people in here all the time that are on the guilty part of things, but still come in here because we go over facts. Y'all talk to each other all the time that have differences of opinion. There's no reason, just because suddenly you might think that Kohberger is guilty and you don't still like view things the same way that I do. That's no reason to come in here and all of a sudden pretend like be a bitch when you used to be just normal. Like, it was weird behavior, bro. Weird ass behavior.
Not going to be able to keep talking. You're not going to be able to advocate for your child. You're just going to be silenced. So I said, what do we do? And he's like, well, I can just tell them they can only interview me in the room. I'll be there and I'll decide if it's something that's going to be relevant to the case or not. So we never even did.
What did he say?
Or once the gag.
So Shannon wanted to know what they were going to ask. So Shannon wanted to vet the police's interview questions with the Goncalveses. Let me listen to this.
And when you say PCA, like the probable cause affidavit, I'm assuming.
Yeah, it was watermarked, was all protected. Another thing that we've never given out on this whole dissemination order that I'll give it to you because it came to my mind at this time. Our lawyer, they wanted to interview us differently. Once the gag order was in, they wanted to like interview us deeply. And my lawyer's like, well, Steve, if they do that, then the chances of you being included in the gag order are pretty much going to be triggered. You're not going to be able to keep talking. You're not going to be able to advocate for your child. You're just going to be silenced. So I said, what do we do? And he's like, well, I can just tell them they can only interview me in the room. I'll be there and I'll decide if it's something that's going to be relevant to the case or not. So we never even did that. And some people were like, oh, that's suspicious. No, I just wanted to be able to advocate for my child. And
for one, Kaylee was a grown-ass woman, so put some respect on her being a grown-ass woman. For two, if you had nothing to do with your daughter's death and you're not doing anything shady like people have found in your past when it comes to these businesses and the weird shit that you do, what is the problem with being interviewed to try to figure out your child's murder? Yes, that's suspicious. Yes, that is sketchy. Anyone who thinks otherwise is lying to themselves for the love of the game. Let's be serious.
Not be told that I was part of the gag order.
And this was over. I mean, we had already had an arrest. I mean, they had never interviewed us prior. I mean, you would think they would have pulled us in day 2, day 3 and said, hey,
I agree.
You know, do you know anybody that didn't like Kaylee? Do you know anybody that had a beef with Kaylee? I mean, we never were talking.
It's just a step that got missed.
Okay, so are you telling me that if they would have approached you before they arrested Kohberger, that you would have let them interview you? Because the way that you're behaving about it after the arrest, if they've already got the guy, that makes it even less sense that you'd be so about it. That's weird. That's weird. And I don't care what they're probably going to try to say here. I don't remember if they make a comment about this or not. But if the cops would have come to you before, I feel like you would have behaved the exact same way because you're making such a big deal about it now.
Once the gag order, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we want to interview you guys. And we were like, and then joke. Shannon told us, he's just like, you do. And you could, I think it could also make us potentially witnesses.
Well, when you become a witness, then you're part of the gag order. So we were trying to protect ourselves.
And see how this didn't do anything? They were literally held outside of the gag order, which means they weren't given any information. Because if you're part of the gag order, that means you're given information that you can't speak on. But if you're outside of the gag order, then you don't get any information. And whatever you hear is not valid because you're not part of the club. So either way he did this, it backfired both ways because he didn't get what he wanted. He didn't get anything from them ever.
From
and he's like, I'm not shutting up.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I would go to jail at that point. I basically would be, an agent of the court. I believe is what they called it. And I was like, I'm not interested in any of that because
if you get interviewed by the police so they can investigate your daughter's murder, you become an agent of the court. No, I think you're tripping.
We did have information. We knew about a stalker that had an event that followed Kaylee. And so they were asking for those.
But you didn't, though. You didn't until afterwards and information started coming out to the public, because you said yourself on the 23rd of November that y'all didn't have any idea about any of those situations. You were asked very directly about a stalker or anything like that. And all three of y'all, Steve Jr., and Olivia, still pregnant, all three of y'all said no. And then Olivia continued and said she felt comfortable enough with us, which is a strange thing to say considering that y'all are family. She felt comfortable enough with us that if something like that was going on, she would have said something. So no, Steve, you didn't know. Not till way later.
I'm not interested in any of that because we did have information. We knew about a stalker that had an event that followed Kaylee, and so they were asking for those type of details, and we were giving them that information. But
yeah. That wound up not being anything. She had just something had happened to her at a recent grocery store, and
it was all on camera. And
I mean, we weren't. If we thought we knew any information to help, we
were providing it.
Yeah, we were definitely providing. We weren't like, oh, we're not talking.
But one.
You were providing what you were cherry picking. You weren't giving the police the opportunity to ask their own questions. That's two different things.
What's a gag order? They had a bad guy. Now they wanted to do detailed interviews, which was like, you had every chance to talk to us. And now it's just to shut us up. And
see, what he is trying to act like is that there was some sort of back end agenda for the cops wanting to speak to them. The cops were speaking to all of the families. Everybody was interviewed. The Chapins were interviewed. The Kernodle family was interviewed. The Laramie part was interviewed. Ben and his wife were interviewed. How is this not strange behavior? How is this not the weirdest shit?
But once the gag order, they had a bad guy. Now they wanted to do detailed interviews, which was like, you had every chance to talk to us.
I would assume
and now it's
normal.
just to shut us up. And I was not willing to be shut up.
Our job was not to protect him, and everything we read in that.
And everything that y'all came out and basically said after the fact has been proven false. Remember, these are the people, her right there is the one who started the rumor about Ethan's body being behind Xana's door and the door being shut and Dylan and Bethany not being able to get the door open together, trying to get it open, and they couldn't. So they specifically called Hunter Johnson open because they needed somebody bigger and stronger to try to get the door open. And he got the door open just enough to see that Ethan's body was behind the door and blocking it. That came from Kristi. That came from Kristi speaking to Drunk Turkey. And people not believing that she spoke to Drunk Turkey, and her having to do a video. Hi, this is me and Kristi. Yes, I spoke with Daniel with Drunk Turkey. I did the interview. All of that. Y'all remember, y'all been here. But we're the bad guys. We're the bad guys.
That PCA was, that was all the information that we knew for the most part. Little things would come here and there, and you kind of had to vet them out. Like, is it true? Is it not true? But
all of that shit came from this camp too. God.
We were convinced that our police had the right guy by what was in that affidavit, that arrest affidavit.
DNA is the best.
How can you say that today? How can you say that today, knowing that that shoe print wasn't analyzed, that was used for suspect path of travel? How can you say that knowing the facts that you know now? How can you say that to this day, that PCA made you feel comfortable thinking that they had the right guy, when the person who signed off on the PCA report that was sent to the judge for signing, the prosecutor's office, literally said themselves that it's irrelevant because of how much disinformation is in there? That's crazy, Kristi. Come on, bro. That's crazy.
True, is it not true? But we were convinced that our police had the right guy by what was in that affidavit, that arrest affidavit.
DNA is the best type of evidence you could ever ask for. I've talked to FBI, I've talked to people, and they're like, it's done. It's over. You have DNA. If you let this go, then every case in America that's a really good case would be in question. You want DNA at the crime scene with the members of the crime part of it. I mean, the sheath had 2 victims and him on it. So it was,
I mean, I
we were
don't
lucky.
disagree. That is like, he's not wrong. If you are investigating a case, you definitely want to hope that the suspect and the victim, there's something somewhere that has them both, you know? So he's not wrong in saying that at all. He's very correct.
Of the crime part of it. I mean, the sheath had 2 victims and him on it.
Right there.
So it was.
But also other unknown male DNA was also on the knife sheath. So he can say that, but he's not going to sit here and be honest about the fact that not only was there unknown male DNA in that house, not only were there 9 people that were swabbed that were never put into the test network to be checked for the unknown DNA, 9 of them, that's a lot. But he's also not mentioning the fact there's other unknown male DNA on the sheath itself. Why can't he be honest about that? Because if you were to say that to some random person, that would be definitely something that they'd be like, wait a minute. So this guy's DNA is apparently on it too, but it was like little bitty. And there's also some other male DNA and they never actually tested it. You're okay with that? How are you okay with that? That'd be my questions.
We were lucky in that aspect.
We were very lucky that he thought he was so smart, but he ran out of there and left his sheath on the bed next to Maddie.
And he just so happened to order it on Amazon, and they had all that activity in those records.
They saw that he had bought a K-bar. It's, he's not a fisherman. He's not a hunter.
It's so weird that they say, this is like the 3rd or 4th time they've mentioned like the fishing thing. And y'all know the original story that we got from somebody that Kohberger worked with in high school was that he tried to work for a place that fillets fish and he couldn't get the knife work down because he has mobility and dexterity issues, like diagnosed mobility and dexterity issues. He could not get the knife down to fillet a fish correctly. He also is not very good with strangers. So he didn't want to be at a counter as a 16-year-old kid looking at strangers and dealing with people all day. Some kids they can pick it up. My daughter's a social butterfly. There ain't nobody that she's going to be around it and not talk to and be okay with anything like that. She'd be totally good with dealing with people all day long. I don't want to deal with people all day. I've had to, but if given a choice, I would choose not to, So it's crazy that they keep mentioning the fish thing. Like, do they know that story or are they just saying that randomly? And also the fact that they keep thinking that this has to be like a military assigned knife given to just straight up trained killers is also just so crazy. They sell this knife at stores all over the country, online and physical. You go to a gun show, they're all over the place. Like, this is not anything special. I don't know why he keeps doing that.
Ordered on Amazon, and they had all that activity in those records.
They saw that he had bought a K-bar. It's, he's not a fisherman. He's not a hunter.
Never bought
and that's not even the type of knife that you would get.
He's not a hunter. He's never bought any of those licenses.
If you were an angler or,
but if you're
it's a combat knife. It's a military combat knife, that you go for Marines, that you kill people with.
You definitely don't buy it to protect yourself from bears like some people have suggested.
Yeah. The amount that I know about the case immediately was like, wow, this guy he's not the brightest. I don't think if he thought he was really smart, he didn't do a very good job.
Well, I mean, even turning his phone off on the way over, that right there, that, because in the beginning, that's what he was even saying. He's just like looking for cell phones that were on during those hours around. He goes, but is what they should be looking for is one that turned off and turned back on. And that was him.
Because kids don't turn their phones off. Most adults. Yeah. I mean, how many times have you just actively turned your phone on? Don't say an airplane, because obviously that's
lots of people. Lots of people.
Actually hard shut it down. And he did a hard shutdown and his battery was at 100%. That was on the front.
And more than that, he turned his wife.
How do we know that? See, they're trying to pretend like they have information that they don't actually have. Remember when he was drunk talking to Crime Talk he said that this information that he tried to get somebody else to get for him was being held for ransom for $10,000. Remember that? That came out of his own mouth. The reports for Celebrite are not out. These people that you see on the screen here, they don't get information unless it's unsealed from the court or someone like me FOIAs it, pays for it, and gets it through a Freedom of Information Act request. And then the same day that we get an email from Zen2 or just an email with the attachments themselves, the families then also get the exact same thing that we paid for. So there is nothing that has ever been shown that's going to reflect the things that he says. Now, could that come out and everything he said is true? Very well could. But we've been begging for the freaking reports from Celebrite for how long? They're not out there. They already admitted they were handed just information for Kaylee on a USB that was 20 pages that they didn't even want to look at. You really think he's got some Celebrite report? Or does he have a Garrett Discovery report based off of bullshit? We've proven that already years ago. This is what I mean. He keeps coming out here and doing this false narrative, and the false narrative has now leaked over into their WSU lawsuit because they've got stalking and all kinds of crazy shit in there. Even though the prosecutors with Idaho said there was no stalking, even Cyray admits, out of everything else, there's no behavior of stalking. There's no proof of stalking. The prints on that window outside by the backslider have already been thrown off as not being important or related to the crime. Yet when they're talking about stalking and voyeurism, they and their lawyers have a picture of the back of the house and then another picture of the window with the prints, basically trying to insinuate in their WSU lawsuit that Kohberger left those prints on that window before going inside. Why are we lying? That's the problem here. You're lying.
Like you actually hard shut it down. And he did a hard shutdown and his battery was at 100%. That was on the front.
And more than that, he turned his Wi-Fi off before he turned the power off. So the next time he turned his power back on, the Wi-Fi would be disconnected. So then he could turn it back on in a location and not get it to register. So he did a long process.
Turning off your Wi-Fi doesn't make the phone come on and not register to a tower. When I'm not in my house, my Wi-Fi is off on my phone because I don't want my phone trying to connect to some public ass internet and my information get hijacked off my phone. My kids do the same thing. When they leave the house, the Wi-Fi, pull down your screen, press the little video button and turn it off. That's normal behavior for me.
And he did his research. But I think what it is it's not that he wasn't smarter. He is smart. It's just nobody's smart enough to.
See, I don't turn my phone off. I just turn my Wi-Fi off. But if you turn the phone back on, I'm going to do it. I'm going to turn my Wi-Fi off on my phone, and then I'm going to restart my phone and see. I've never thought about that. I'm going to try it right now.
Get away with these kind of murders anymore.
Yeah.
The technology's too good. The science has been proven.
The ring cam, he was caught on the ring cam.
You're
just
done. If you think you can do a mass murder today, good luck. You're going to get caught, and that's the message. The message is
okay. So I have my Wi-Fi on. I am not going to show you my screen because it'll tell you what my Wi-Fi is called, but I'm going to click it off. Boop. Ixnay the Wi-Fi. Now I'm going to should I power off? I'm going to power it all the way off and then manually turn it back on instead of restarting it. So now we're going to turn off the phone. Let's try it and see. I've never noticed it before. I've never tried it. That's a good point. I'm glad you said something. I'm going to look. All right. So it's off all the way. See, like it's off. I'm going to turn it back on. Okay. Let's see. I've never tried it. If the auto reconnect is turned on, it will. Is that a separate setting? Your Wi-Fi should have auto join off. Oh, that's a separate setting. Well, damn. All right, let me see what it does. Hold on. Okay, so it's coming back on. Mine still just has 5G. Okay, yeah, so I haven't touched it. This just shows you where I have my VPN location. I do not live in Charlotte. I'm still in Texas, y'all. Yeah, it didn't reconnect for me. Oh, you can't even damn see it. Hold on. It didn't reconnect for me. It's still showing. Well, holy damn. Hold on. Yeah, the Wi-Fi's off. The Wi-Fi is staying off. I'm trying to get the damn screen to go down so I can show it to you. It's like impossible to show you anything on these. Can you see that? See, the Wi-Fi never came back on. Oh my God, stop it. See it? That's Don with his... He has his VR looking at me, blowing me a kiss, so I took a picture of it. But yeah, I turned off my Wi-Fi before turning on the phone. Yeah, see, the Wi-Fi's off. Right there. So I turned off my Wi-Fi, turned off my phone all the way, not restart, turned it back on, and my Wi-Fi didn't automatically connect. So I guess it just depends on what phone you have. I wasn't even aware there was an internal setting. I think y'all are talking about an internal setting. And didn't he have a Samsung? I have a Samsung. I don't know what kind he had. Samsung is like the only brand I buy. Well, that's a lie. I like LG too, but I don't do Apple. Yeah, I turned my Wi-Fi off, turned off my phone all the way, powered it all the way off, turned it all the way back on. It never reconnected to the Wi-Fi. Yeah, see this auto. Yeah, see, I wasn't aware that there's like some other setting. There might be some other setting, but I guess mine's not on because the Wi-Fi didn't automatically like reconnect. Like the Wi-Fi didn't automatically come back on and start like trying to reconnect to my house Wi-Fi. So that's interesting.
You know,
I'm glad we looked.
Don't be a fool. Don't think that you can get a PhD and get away with it like this clown did, and
take lives because
how hard is it just to treat people how you want to be treated? I mean, it really shouldn't be that hard.
I had my VPN off for sure.
And that's at 1% of the population. We just need to lock these people up and put them down. I wish they would have just put them down.
Yeah. And so you find out just through the probable cause affidavit, you find out that they've made an arrest. You see all of this work that's been going on, that you were previously unaware of. And now the suspect has a name and he's in custody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, how did that feel? Did you feel any sort of closure with that at all?
That was the first joy that we had in our life.
Are y'all hearing noises like in the background for this?
They've made an arrest. You see all of this work that's been going on, that you were previously unaware of. And now the suspect has a name and he's in custody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's,
maybe it's one of their dogs. What is that noise?
That you were previously unaware of. And now the suspect has a name and he's in custody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's, how did that feel? Did you feel any sort of closure with that at all?
That was the first joy that we had in our life.
They called us, the girls had a celebration of life together, and that was on December 30th. And the night of December 29th, we had family in town for that celebration of life.
And they did the interview with Olivia
and
on 12/28.
I just had an utter breakdown, and I said, I can't keep living. Like I'm breathing, but that's all. Like I'm not living, like not knowing who did this, like not knowing, who did this. And at this time we did know that they had been stabbed to death because of talking to the coroner and their death certificates. We did know that they had been stabbed to death. How many times, this and that.
At that time the cops had given us no further than what the affidavit was all that we really had paperwork wise.
as to the evidence. But what had happened to Kaylee, but to that time, we knew she'd been stabbed to death. We didn't know where she was stabbed. We didn't know how she was stabbed. We didn't know, anything like that. We just knew they were all stabbed to death. So, and then that night at 10:30, 8 p.m., my phone rings, and I just fallen asleep. And it's our attorney. And I said, Steve, wake up. I said, Shannon's calling us. And he's like, well, answer the phone, and I answered the phone. I'm like, hello. And Shannon was like, Kristi, they made an arrest. And I'm like, what? And he goes, they have somebody in custody. I said, and it's the person. He goes, I just talked to the detective. They are 100% sure that this is the person. He is back in Pennsylvania. There will be a process to get him back, yada, yada, yada. And then at that time, we're like, well, what's the evidence that they have in this and that? And he said, until he gets back to the state of Idaho, they can't release that. Yeah. So hopefully he won't fight the extradition, and he will just he will be willing to come back. So he jumped on a plane and they brought him back. And as soon as he touched ground, it was like 7 or 8 o'clock. We were waiting from the courts. We were like, we're not waiting until the next morning. They're like, nope. As soon as he touches Idaho ground, we will give it to the families. And we got that PCA and we read it. We read about, they walked into the house and they saw, Kaylee and Maddie on the second floor, and Ethan and this and that. And it appeared to be stabbed.
They found Kaylee and Maddie on the second floor and this and that.
And we got that PCA and we read it. We read about, they walked into the house and they saw, Kaylee and Maddie on the second floor, and Ethan and this and that. And
now we're only halfway through this interview, and we're not listening to this whole thing. I thought I wanted to deal with this. I really don't want to listen to this whole thing. I'm going to let her talk for like a few more minutes, and then I'm probably going to end the live. I'll put the link in the chat one more time if you guys want to go finish listening to this. But I'm honestly I'm over it here in the next few minutes. Let me let it play. I'm going to go get the link. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and then we're going to come back and do, I think we're going to go over the Sophie Whitehead interview that Connor posted the other day, because that I think is the next on the list in the chronological order that he posted. Then we went over Caleb's, did a couple other things, and now we're going to listen to Sophie's. But tonight I want to go over one of the expert reports. And so I did make a community post where I want you guys to go and vote on which one that we go over tonight. The only reason why I didn't include Barbara Wolf's or Matthew Nodle's is because there's a lot of papers in theirs that have the black redacted boxes over the photos that they're discussing. And I have not had the time to open the reports and try to find the matching photos, or at least as close as I can to what they're talking about. And we have a lot of pictures, especially from that 2026 drop. That's usually the first one I go to now because we've got so many crime scene photos from it. So I want to go in and I want to replace the black boxes with the appropriate photos before we do a big deep dive into those reports. So it's the other ones that are on that community list. I'm gonna let this play for a few more minutes. I'll go grab those links real quick, and then we're gonna end this.
And it appeared to be stab wounds and this and that, and they had this, and they found a sheath on the bed, and it tested this, and they took garbage from the.
Remember that dumb shit in the freaking Sundance thing? That's the local girl talking shit about people on YouTube and stuff, and that dumbass is saying that the sheath was found on Kaylee's bed where Kaylee and Maddie were murdered. What a dumbass! And now look what she just said. Getting it backwards.
The house, and he was circling the home at this from this time to this time, and he's seen speeding away at 4:17, which and
we'd already seen part of that stuff.
We had we were reading all this, and we're like, this is
once you see, I used to work at Genentech. It's a biotech company. Genetic evidence at a crime scene. Good luck. I mean, come on.
We had heard that the sheath was found early on. We heard that. And we had asked them, we're like, is it true that you guys found the sheath of the knife? And they just told us, we were in an in-person meeting, and they said,
who told you that? And how did you
told you that? And we're like, well, we just kind of heard it. I don't know, where we got the information. And they said, we can't deny or confirm that. So we kind of held out hope that was true, that they did have the sheath of the knife, but so much time had gone on. We're like, we're screwed.
We also heard there was a CODIS no hit either. So whoever did this didn't have criminal background that placed them.
There was a lot of people getting in contact with us, and some were crazy. Some appeared not to be. And we were talking to anybody, trying to vet them out the best that we could. Some were coming in as messages. Some people were getting our phone numbers and just calling us.
And remember, the conversation that Steve was having with Brett Norton over on TikTok is where a lot of really telling information about the way that Steve really thinks about a couple of things came out, especially about Dylan.
And, some people were just, it was wild. It was wild. And, you'd say, hey, babe, like today, this, like, I don't know, she kind of sounded crazy, but this is what she said, like,
We got letters from witches from like Pennsylvania there. Like, there's witching cults here and we're the ones responsible. It was wild, man.
Yeah.
We heard.
They said, I heard
Pennsylvania witches were taking responsibility for the murders. What the frick are you talking about?
There's from witches from like Pennsylvania there. Like, there's witching cults here and we're the ones responsible. It was wild, man.
Yeah.
We heard.
They said, I heard that a pack of wolves went in there that night and killed all the kids, and we were like,
our cougar.
What? I need to hear this whole thing again. Hold on. I just dropped the link to this original, whatever the hell this is. Hold on.
Where we got the information, and they said, we can't deny or confirm that. So we kind of held out hope that was true, that they did have the sheath of the knife, but so much time had gone on. We're like, we're screwed.
We also heard there was a CODIS no hit either. So whoever did this didn't have criminal background that placed them in.
There was a lot of people getting in contact with us, and some were crazy. Some appeared not to be. And we were talking to anybody, trying to vet them out the best that we could. Some were coming in as messages. Some people were getting our phone numbers and just calling us. And, some people were just, it was wild. It was wild. And, you'd say, hey, babe, like today, this, like, I don't know, she kind of sounded crazy, but this is what she said, like, We
got letters from witches from like Pennsylvania there. Like, there's witching cults here and we're the ones responsible. It was wild, man.
Yeah.
We heard.
They said, I heard that a pack of wolves went in there that night and killed all the kids, and we were like,
our cougar. It was
it was
a lot. So when they say 62 terabytes of data was found, I could get it because there was a lot of crazies that were saying.
But then somebody, sane would come through and say something, and you would say, I don't know, like, I think this guy might, really have this information that he's giving us, like, I think this might be true, So
there's a lot of students in there that were there, right there at the crime scene. We learned a lot of stuff. We knew about somebody being in the backyard. They've seen people, and
which came out later.
Steve? I know that you don't talk to Brett Norton anymore because she broke a promise and put y'all's damn conversations out there on blast all like that and shit, Dot's not real. There was nobody in the backyard. Dot is a serial troll. And see, there's conversations about Dot in the conversations between Brett Norton and Steve. That's why I know exactly who it is that he's talking about. But what happened is that Steve stopped talking to Brett. And Brett never told him the truth about Dot. Jesus, for fuck's sakes. Dot is not real. The fact that Horsemouth and Leatherface and that other chick haven't made it clear to you yet, I'm so sorry that you chose to have inefficient losers in your pocket. Dot is not real. And they should have made that very clear to you years ago when Brett Norton was exposed. And she had to come out and she had to admit the bullshit. There was no one in the backyard. Dot is not real. She's a serial troll. The second her face slipped in camera one day during one of Brat's little lives, people instantly started calling her by her actual name, which is Brayden. Because she's done this before. And then she tried to do it again after this in the Sebastian Rogers case. Dot is not real, Steve. Obviously, I'm going to have to clip that and put it out by itself just on the little tickety talk so that those little losers who are constantly feeding them wrong information can get the note, get the memo, do your jobs right. Unbelievable. Dot is not real. And that's what he's holding on to this whole time.
Say something and you would say, I don't know, like, I think this guy might, really have this information that he's giving.
And she doesn't. She's a mentally ill person with a lot of serial troll issues. Serial troll issues. The reason why when her face slipped, people instantly called her out by name in the chat. It was either Brett Norton's chat or Riley Lively's chat. It was one of theirs where there was a live going on and Dot was up on the live and the camera slipped and everyone recognized her. And then we have her out on video. She did an interview herself with Melissa Jade, who is the exact same creator that interviewed Brett Norton to get the truth out. She admitted in the interview that she did with Melissa Jade that it was all bullshit. That she actually read a comment from someone on Reddit about that entire situation and basically just took on the personality for herself. Dot's not real. Steve. Oh my God. Oh my God.
I think this might be true,
So there's a
so
lot of students in there that were there, right there at the crime scene. We learned a lot of stuff.
And by the way, Brayden is like a 30-something-year-old, I guess, transgender person. I don't know. If you look at Summer Wells' mother, subtract maybe 25 years off of her, that's Brayden. To a T. The way that she dresses, the way her voice sounds, everything is like Candace. That's Brayden. That's Dot. Oh my God, I cannot believe he still thinks Dot's real. Oh my God.
We knew about somebody being in the backyard. They've seen people,
I'm so mad
which
right
came
now.
out later. Yeah.
had reported that they'd seen somebody in the backyard, or they suspected somebody was in Murray barking and stuff. So the whole stalking part thing kind of was like,
Yeah, I guess it's come out in the police reports, the documents dropped since the case has been closed, that Kaylee had said several times that, I think somebody's in the backyard, or Murphy was acting really weird and wouldn't.
Nope, that's the crazy part. That's the crazy part. And I've been needing to do this video, even though we haven't even talked about them forever, because people get them confused. Brett Norton is this girl whose real name is Sydney. She's been on a documentary with her real name about this case already. We've gone over it. Okay, y'all have seen her face. We've gone over the interviews and everything. Her name is Sydney. Her surname or her alias on TikTok was Brett Norton. The girl, who is the same girl that Bryan Kohberger got into an argument with in class where she stomped out after the argument, and the girl that he tried to walk up to and ask to go out for coffee so that they could, fix the argument, because he was being told by his professors he needed to make a better effort. And so there he is trying. She's a lesbian. So she took offense to the fact that Bryan asked her out for coffee, thinking that it was because he wanted to go on a date with her. And she took offense to it because he already knew that she didn't like guys. And even though she never says that he started cussing her out, that his eyes got dark, that he got intimidating towards her or anything like that, the next day, she goes and reports him to the office. But her name that she goes by in the articles that she's been interviewed on is BK Norton. Now, Truth and Transparency has done videos, I think maybe 2 videos, on who she really is with receipts. I've watched them. I will tell you, regardless of everything else I've said, everything in those videos does track to who BK Norton really is. She's got pictures of her and everything. But no, they're not the same person. They're not the same person. Their names are very, 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 very similar, but they are not the same person. Not the same person.
Returned to her, which was unusual. And then Murphy disappeared, and she actually got in her car and was driving around looking for Murphy.
I'm sorry. Where did we ever see the Range Rover leave the parking lot in the 1112 camera? She just said that Murphy went missing and Kaylee got in her car and went to go drive around and find him. That is not what we saw in that camera. Listen again.
Murphy was acting really weird, and when Maurice has been closed, that Kaylee had said several times that, you know, I think somebody's in the backyard. Or Murphy was acting really weird and wouldn't return to her, which was unusual. And then Murphy disappeared, and she actually.
Well, see, I don't know if she's actually talking about that night or not. So Murphy disappearing and Kaylee having to go run around and find him being gone and being missing technically wasn't abnormal then, if this was something that happened beforehand.
I think somebody's in the backyard. Or Murphy was acting really weird and wouldn't return to her, which was unusual. And then Murphy.
Dot is a female with severe mental issues. Dot is a female. Brayden is a female with severe mental issues. Yes.
He disappeared, and she actually got in her car and was driving around looking for Murphy.
Yeah.
And
so when they're asking, when there was no suspect, they were like, what are suspicious things that, and we're like, remembering some of these things. And
but you didn't interview with the police, so how did you tell them any of those things? And again, Steve, on November 23rd, you and your two oldest in the house children all told the news that Kaylee never said a word to you guys about anything about stalking. So why are you backtracking now, trying to pretend like you knew shit when you already told us in the beginning of this you didn't know shit? You can't take it back now. You can't take it back now. It doesn't work like that.
So
the roommates were telling them this stuff. The roommates, you know, they were documented by the roommates. Bethany was saying just about a week ago, Kaylee said, you know, I think there's somebody in the backyard. I think they're, you know.
And that's what we assumed the targeter was about.
That wasn't a week ago. Wasn't that in like October or some shit?
They were documented by the roommates. Bethany was saying just about a week ago, Kaylee said, you know, I think there's somebody in the backyard. I think they're, you know.
And that's what we assumed the targeter was about, but we didn't know for sure. You know, just family trying to take little pieces and put them together the best that we
and
could.
with a mushy brain that is trying just to take everything in a brain that is in tremendous amount of shock. I mean, that's what I believe. Just absolute shock.
The soldiers that
like trauma brain, you know, and you know, you're trying to remember. You're like, is that what he said? Gosh, I don't remember. Like maybe he said this, maybe he said, I don't know, you know, and you're just going by everything you can,
instincts,
you know,
really
just
instincts.
Trying to do the best you can and keep moving, keep living, you know, even though, you know.
Yeah, I'm really kind of just done with this interview. I'll finish listening to it, I guess, and take a couple notes if they say anything out of pocket and just let y'all know later. No, there's nothing that they're ever going to say that's going to make me feel bad for how I speak about them. When we know the truth about the whole situation with that Sunday and them not going down there and the ability that they had, and now the even more ridiculous excuses that they keep making, I'm taking up for Kaylee. I'm not taking up for Steve and Kristi. I don't have a reason to take up for Steve and Kristi. They've let that expire a long time ago. This is about the truth. And if the truth hurts so bad, sorry, not really my issue. And especially if you want to sit there and say that you refuse to speak to the police and you're making it sound shady of the cops wanting to talk to you. And this was a quadruple homicide. It ain't just about you. And it isn't just about Kaylee either. You being so adamant and such a dick about not wanting to speak to the police because they wanted to interview you deeply, that's sketchy ass behavior. And again, take it back all the way to John Paul Miller and Micah. If this was John Paul Miller saying this kind of shit and Micah was Kaylee, wouldn't y'all be red flagging the shit out of this interview? Same behavior. Same behavior, bro. Okay, so here is a link to the community post that I put out for the expert report that I want to go over tonight. It's already 3. So maybe we probably aren't going to go live to do the Sophia Whitehead whatever. We'll probably just go ahead and do that tomorrow because it looks like so far we have the Slavinsky report, the cell analysis from Slavinsky. He's the guy who actually brought Cy Ray into the case, the original report. So far, he's winning at 37%. We have Ruth Ballard, where there's like a breakdown of the DNA on each item where there is DNA with like the results that she came up with. That one's at 29%. The IgG report with Lisa Larkin is at 24%. And then the Becker guy that did the vehicle ID is at 10%. So far, it seems like tonight we'll probably be going over Slavinsky's cell analysis reports. I would really love to know what he thinks. Now that Cy Ray has come out and given his one and only interview with all the crazy shit that he said, I really wonder what the Slavinsky guy thinks. I'd really love to know, I would really love to know. But I'm going to go ahead and get off of here. I told you they were going to be saying some crazy stuff. I told y'all once he said something about the reason why they were given now for not going down there, that it was just going to piss you off even more. I don't see how you can hear him say that him being on call for a just-in-case situation was more important than going down there when Karen was going down there and everybody else already knew that some shit was going on, and you were getting calls from everybody. You were getting calls from family, from people that were bothering your minor children. You're seeing your daughter's house and cop cars all over the place on the news, and you don't bother for hours. That's never going to just go away. That tells you how much they actually gave a shit, in my opinion. That's my opinion based off of like behaviors they seem to not have any shame in coming out and constantly talking about. So there's that too. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. I'll see you guys tonight for the winner of the review. Like I said, we're not going to do the Sophia interview in between because there's really just not enough break time for that. So we'll do the report tonight of Slavinsky. Probably, I feel like that's probably going to end up being the winner because it's already so far ahead. So I'll see you guys tonight. Thank you so much for coming in here. Thank you for, I don't really know what these little jewels do. I really hope you guys aren't paying for these. Like, I'm under the understanding these are things that you like accumulate through like chatting and like interacting. I don't know what these are. I mean, I know they've been on here for a while and I always try to like show them. I'm not really quite sure. I need to do some research on what those are. But thank you so much for coming in here and participating and being so nice to each other and gifting each other memberships and people that join and people that just know better from bullshit. That's really awesome too. And the super stickers and the super thanks and the super chats. I really appreciate you guys coming in here and listening. And again, for people that want to run their mouths because I've got something to say about the Goncalveses, I am here trying to figure out the truth for Kaylee. I'm here trying to figure out the truth for Ethan, for Xana, and for Maddie. If the parents are fighting against the truth coming out, that's a problem. And these people have had the same behaviors of not wanting to be interviewed by the police, of lying, about changing stories, about flip-flopping their information, and they refuse to take accountability for all of the dishonesty that they have come out and displayed to the public. I am not going to ever think that I am in the wrong for wanting someone who is publicly lying about something so serious to take accountability and be honest. It has nothing to do with Kohberger. There's stuff that they have talked about their own child that nothing but shade from them. It's never just a cutesy story that doesn't have some sort of jab to Kaylee in it. And I don't understand that. I don't understand that. And it's not being made up. It's there. And it's not cute. It's not okay. I feel bad for Kaylee. People seem to think that because we question the Goncalveses that we talk shit about Kaylee, and that couldn't be the farthest from the truth. It's literally the exact opposite. We talk shit to the people talking shit about the victims because we are trying to figure out the truth. But maybe if people's IQs were raised a little bit, they'd understand the difference. Public school failed a lot of people. I guess it ain't really their fault. But I'm going to see you guys later on tonight. I will have the live schedule up about 30 to 45 minutes before go time. It'll either be somewhere between 7:45 and 8:45, just depending on what I got to do with the kids to get everything ready to go. But I will see you guys later on tonight. You have a good rest of your day. Try to get some relaxation, and I will see you guys later. See y'all. Oh, wait, hold on. I didn't set the outro yesterday, and it felt weird when it closed off and didn't play anything, and I was like, ew, what is that? Let me make sure this is on here right. Hold on. Okay, there it goes. This should be normal now. Okay, see y'all.